I gripped my resume tightly, the sweat from my palms almost soaking the paper through. This was Sterling Group, one of the top tech corporations in the country. Just getting an interview made me feel like I had hit the absolute jackpot. Just as the interviewer asked me to give a brief self-introduction, the conference room door suddenly creaked open. Right after, a tiny 3 or 4-year-old charged in like a little cannonball. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored miniature suit, his hair was soft, and his eyes were big and bright like 2 dark grapes. I froze on the spot. Whose kid was this? He was way too cute. Before I could even process what was happening, the little guy made a beeline straight for me. The next second, he hugged my thigh. I instantly went stiff. The interviewer was clearly stunned, too. The entire conference room was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. The little boy looked up and, in a soft, sweet voice tinged with a bit of grievance, called out clearly, "Mommy." Boom! My brain exploded on the spot. Mommy? I've been single since the day I was born, never even had a boyfriend. Where would I get a son this big? I quickly tried to bend down and pick the child up, intending to explain that I really wasn't his mother. But just as I moved, a tall figure suddenly appeared in the doorway. The man stood there against the light, his facial features obscured, but his unapproachable aura was so oppressive it made it hard to breathe. He stepped into the conference room. His leather shoes clicked steadily against the floor. Every step felt like it was stepping right on my chest. When he got closer, I finally saw his face clearly, and I almost gasped. This man was ridiculously handsome. He had strong brows, deep-set eyes, a straight nose, and thin lips pressed into a cold, stern line. The bespoke suit he wore, clearly carrying a hefty price tag, perfectly accentuated his broad shoulders, narrow waist, and tall, lean physique. Wasn't this the CEO of Sterling Group, Spencer Sterling? The man rumored to be ruthless, entirely uninterested in women, who had taken control of a multi-billion-dollar corporate empire by the age of 30. I had seen his picture in financial magazines, but he was countless times more handsome in person. I was just about to open my mouth to explain that the child had mistaken me for someone else, but Spencer spoke first. His voice was deep and cold, completely devoid of emotion. "Everyone is here." His gaze didn't even land on me. He just looked at the little guy hugging my thigh and said flatly, "Take him home." I was completely dumbfounded. Take him home? Take who? Me? My mind instantly went blank. 2 bodyguards in black suits appeared out of nowhere, standing on either side of me. One of them made a polite gesture. "Miss Chloe, right this way." My head was complete mush at that moment. Just like that, half escorted and half carried, I followed Spencer Sterling out of the conference room. I was still holding the little guy who kept calling me mommy. The toddler was exceptionally quiet in my arms. His little hands tightly gripped my clothes, his face buried in my neck, carrying a faint, sweet, milky scent. And I was in a completely dazed state. What on earth was happening? I just came for an interview. How did I suddenly become the CEO's son's mother and get dragged to his home? Not even soap operas dared to write a plot like this. It wasn't until I was shoved into a black Rolls Royce that I managed to find my voice. Mr. Sterling, I stammered. Is there some kind of misunderstanding? Spencer sat across from me. His legs were crossed, his posture elegant yet distant. He raised his eyes and looked at me. It was the kind of look you'd give an inanimate object. "There is no misunderstanding," he replied, his tone remaining cold. "From today on, you are Leo's mother and you will move into the Sterling estate." I felt like I was going crazy. "No, Mr. Sterling, I'm not." "You're not what?" He cut me off directly. "Not his mother?" I nodded frantically. "Right. I've never even been married. How could I possibly have a child this big?" Spencer's mouth seemed to twitch slightly, but it was so fast I suspected it was an illusion. "You don't need to worry about that," he said. "I will give you an official title." My entire worldview felt like it was being repeatedly crushed. This isn't about a title. I was almost crying from anxiety. "I really don't know your son." The little boy seemed to sense my distress. He shifted slightly in my arms and whispered, "Mommy, don't be afraid." I looked down at his innocent little face, and my heart was instantly a tangled mess. Spencer's gaze also fell on the child. A rare trace of warmth surfaced in his usually cold eyes. His name is Leo Sterling. He has selective mutism. He hasn't spoken a word in almost a year. He looked at me. And you are the first person he has spoken to since. I froze. Selective mutism? Meaning, this child didn't speak because of psychological reasons? But he clearly just called me mommy. Why would he call me that? I still didn't understand. Spencer took a wallet from the inner pocket of his suit, opened it, pulled out a photograph, and handed it to me. The woman in the photo had a gentle smile, her eyes curving sweetly, and she looked, well, you couldn't just say she looked like me. You had to say we were completely identical. I looked at the woman in the photo, then touched my own face, a chill shooting straight from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. This is Leo's mother, Audrey. Spencer's voice lowered. She passed away in a car accident a year ago. My hand holding the photo was trembling. No wonder. No wonder the child mistook me for someone else. This was just too coincidental. So, Mr. Sterling, what you're saying is? I asked cautiously. Be Leo's mother, he looked at me, his tone leaving no room for argument. For a period of 1 year. I will pay you more than enough. How much? I blurted out almost instinctively. I regretted it the moment I asked. It sounded so mercenary. Spencer didn't seem surprised at all. $5 million. In addition, Sterling Group will cover all of your mother's medical expenses at the hospital. I snapped my head up, staring at him in shock. How did he know about my mom? My mother had severe kidney disease and was hospitalized, needing dialysis every week. The medical bills were a bottomless pit that had nearly bled our family dry. That was the whole reason I was desperate to get into Sterling Group, because the salary was high. Spencer seemed to see right through me. I've read your resume, he said flatly. I understood now. He had already run a full background check on me before the interview. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was premeditated. He needed a woman who looked like his late wife to be his son's mother. And I, Chloe, an ordinary girl desperate for money, just happened to have this face. I was the lucky one chosen. The car drove into a sprawling, manor-style gated community. Every house here looked like a castle, spaced far apart. The Rolls-Royce pulled up in front of a white mansion at the very end. A row of staff stood at the door, bowing in unison. Welcome home, Mr. Sterling. Welcome home, young master. I stepped out of the car holding Leo, feeling like I had crashed into a world I didn't belong in. Everything here was so luxurious it suffocated me. A well-dressed woman in her 50s, who looked like the housekeeper, walked over. You're back, sir, she said respectfully. Her gaze fell on me, showing a fleeting moment of surprise before she quickly masked it. This is Ms. Chloe, Spencer introduced. From today on, she will be living here. Yes, sir. The housekeeper nodded and gave me a professional smile. Hello, Miss Chloe. I am Martha. Holding Leo, I gave an awkward nod. Hello, Martha. Leo refused to be put down, clinging to me like a little koala. Spencer glanced at us and said to Martha, take Miss Chloe to her room and get her things settled. Yes, sir. I followed Martha up to the second floor. My room was ridiculously huge, bigger than my entire previous apartment. It had a walk-in closet, a master bath, and a balcony overlooking the entire garden. The closet was already filled with the latest season's designer dresses in all styles and brands, tags still attached. The vanity was stocked with a full set of top-tier skincare and makeup. Martha said, Miss Chloe, Mr. Sterling prepared all of this for you. If you need anything else, just let us know anytime. Looking at it all, I felt like I was dreaming. An absurd, magnificent dream. At dinner, there were only 3 of us at the long dining table. Spencer, me, and Leo sitting next to me. Leo was very clingy and insisted I feed him. I fed him bite by bite, and he ate with a healthy appetite. Spencer sat at the head of the table, quietly cutting his steak, barely saying a word. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. After dinner, I took Leo to his room. It looked like a fairy tale world, packed with all kinds of toys. I played blocks with him for a while, then read him a story. As I read, he fell asleep leaning against my chest. Looking at his sleeping face, my heart completely melted. This child just made you want to protect him. I gently laid him on the bed and tucked him in. Just as I was about to leave, Spencer walked in. He had changed into loungewear, shedding some of his daytime intensity for a softer, domestic vibe. "Is he asleep?" he asked. "Yeah," I nodded. He walked to the bed and leaned over to kiss Leo's forehead. In that split second, I saw a father's tenderness. He and I actually were the same kind of people, both trying to love this child in our own ways. He straightened up and looked at me. "Let's talk." 2. We went to the study. Spencer's study was massive, with an entire wall dedicated to bookshelves. He handed me a contract. "Read it over. If there are no issues, sign it." I took it and skimmed through it quickly. The terms were simple. As Leo's mother, I would fulfill all duties of caring for him. The term was 1 year. After a year, I would receive a compensation of $5 million, plus a downtown condo. During the contract, I could not do anything to damage Sterling Group's reputation, nor could I disclose the existence of this contract to anyone. Put simply, it was a labor contract to play a mother. The payout was staggeringly generous. My mother's illness. That was still my biggest concern. "I've already made the arrangements," Spencer said. "She's been transferred to the best private hospital with the top specialists. You don't have to worry about any of the expenses." My heart instantly settled. My mom was saved. For her, I'd be willing to do anything, let alone just play a mother for a year. "I'll sign it." I picked up the pen and signed my name at the bottom of the contract, Chloe. From the moment I signed those letters, my life was completely tied to Spencer and Leo Sterling. "Good." Spencer put the contract away, his face expressionless. "Starting tomorrow, Martha will teach you basic etiquette as well as some things about Audrey. You're not just learning to be a mother, you have to be Audrey. My heart skipped a beat. I had to play a dead woman, too. What do I need to do? Her habits, her preferences, the way she spoke. Spencer stared at me. "You have to mimic her. The closer, the better." My heart sank. This was much harder than I thought. I wasn't just a stand-in. I was a perfect replica that needed to be meticulously sculpted. The next day, my training began. Martha was a very strict teacher. She taught me how to walk, how to sit, how to smile. She said when Ms. Audrey smiled, the corners of her mouth lifted exactly 15 degrees, no more, no less. She taught me how to taste wine, drink coffee, arrange flowers, and play the piano. Things I had only seen on TV before became my daily routine. It was exhausting because I didn't know anything. I was just an ordinary girl whose only redeeming quality growing up was getting decent grades. But these high society skills? I was totally clueless. Martha also gave me a massive pile of materials about Audrey. Her diaries, her photo albums, even videos she recorded before she died. Every night, I would hold those things and watch them late into the night. I watched the woman in the videos who looked exactly like me. She smiled so brightly, so happily. Standing next to Spencer, they were a perfect match. The more I learned about her, the more inadequate I felt. She was like the moon in the sky, bright and distant. And I was just a speck of dust on the ground. How could I ever become her? Leo became my only comfort. Only when I was with him could I temporarily forget that I was a fraud. Leo was very clingy. He would hold my hand and make me watch butterflies in the garden with him. He would share his favorite teddy bear with me. Even though he still barely spoke, he would look at me with sparkling eyes and smile. His smile was like sunshine, clearing all the gloom in my heart. One day, while I was playing with Leo in the garden, Spencer walked over. He was dressed casually today in a white button-down and black slacks. The sunlight cast over him made him look much softer. "Mommy, hug." Leo opened his little arms and ran toward me. I smiled and scooped him into my arms. Spencer stood a short distance away, quietly watching us. His eyes were complex, holding something I couldn't read. "How is your learning coming along?" he asked. "I'm still learning," I said, a bit guiltily. "Next week, my mother is coming back," he said suddenly. My chest tightened. His mother? Spencer's mother, the matriarch of the Sterling family? She was a legendary figure, the true anchor of the Sterling Group. Does she know about me? She only knows that I found a mother for Leo, Spencer replied. She doesn't know about the contract. My heart leapt to my throat. Then what do I? Just remember, you're Audrey. Spencer's gaze instantly turned icy. I won't tolerate any mistakes. My hands and feet instantly went cold. Acting in front of a shrewd old woman who had seen it all? Could I pull it off? I genuinely had zero confidence. For the next few days, I pushed myself to the absolute limit. I watched Audrey's videos over and over, mimicking her every frown and smile. I flipped through her diaries countless times, memorizing every detail of her life. I even started copying the slight upward inflection at the end of her sentences. Even Martha said I was acting more and more like Ms. Audrey. But I knew the truth. I wasn't her. I was just a liar wearing a mask. The day old Mrs. Sterling returned, the weather was beautiful. The entire mansion had been scrubbed spotless. All the staff had changed into fresh uniforms, waiting nervously. I was nervous, too. I put on a white sundress that Audrey loved and applied the same light makeup she wore. Staring in the mirror, I practiced my smile over and over. Don't be nervous. Spencer stood behind me, his voice unusually gentle. Just treat her like an ordinary elder. I looked at him through the mirror. He was dressed formally today, too. Standing together, we really did look like a married couple. A black Bentley slowly pulled into the estate. The car door opened, and an old woman wearing a traditional cheongsam, her hair impeccably styled, stepped out with the help of the staff. She looked sharp, her eyes piercing, carrying an aura of natural authority. This was Spencer's mother, Eleanor. I took a deep breath and linked my arm through Spencer's. Mom, Spencer greeted her. Eleanor nodded, her gaze sweeping right past him to land squarely on me. That look was like an X-ray, trying to see right through me. My heart was racing. And this is... Eleanor began, her voice flat, betraying no emotion. Mom, this is Audrey, Spencer said. I quickly lowered my head and, using the voice I had practiced countless times, said softly, Mom. 3. Eleanor didn't respond immediately. She just stared at me, looking for a full 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds felt longer than a century. I felt my back drench in sweat. Just as I was about to crack, Eleanor finally spoke. She does look quite like her. Her tone was indifferent. Let's go inside. It's windy out here. With that, she turned and walked into the mansion. I let out a breath, my legs feeling a bit like jelly. Spencer patted the back of my hand, as if to comfort me. In the living room, Leo was sitting on the rug playing with his toys. Seeing Eleanor, he paused, then immediately hid behind me. Eleanor's gaze fell on Leo, softening a bit. Leo, come to Grandma. But Leo just gripped the hem of my dress, refusing to go over. Eleanor's face darkened. Why is this child getting more and more timid around people? Mom, he just woke up. Spencer covered for him. I crouched down and whispered to Leo, be a good boy, Leo. That's Grandma. Go say hi, okay? Leo hesitated, then shook his head. The atmosphere instantly turned incredibly awkward. Eleanor's gaze snapped back to me, full of scrutiny. Is this how you take care of him? He doesn't even know how to greet people anymore. My face instantly went pale. I'm sorry, Mom. It's my fault. I apologized quickly. Eleanor scoffed. I heard Leo wasn't speaking at all until you showed up, and then he started? Yes, Spencer answered. Is that so? Eleanor looked at me. What kind of magic do you possess? I don't know how to answer that. Hi, Mommy, Leo suddenly whispered. He tilted his head up and touched my face with his little hand. Eleanor's expression softened a fraction. She looked at Leo, then at me, and didn't say anything else. During dinner, Eleanor asked many questions about my past with Spencer, like how we met, when we got married. Spencer answered all of them for me. He spun a perfect love story, college sweethearts, love at first sight, married right after graduation. He spoke so naturally, so fluidly, as if it had actually happened. I kept my head down the whole time, pretending to be shy, afraid to speak. I was terrified that if I opened my mouth, I'd blow my cover. After dinner, Eleanor called me to her room alone. Her room was decorated in an antique style, with a faint scent of sandalwood in the air. Sit. She pointed to the chair opposite her. I sat down stiffly. You don't need to be nervous. Eleanor poured me a cup of tea. I don't mean any harm. I took the teacup with both hands, keeping my head down. I know you aren't Audrey. The moment she opened her mouth, she dropped a bombshell. My hand jerked, nearly spilling the tea. I snapped my head up, looking at her in terror. How did she know? Where did I mess up? You don't have to look at me like that, Eleanor said calmly. I watched Audrey grow up. You might look exactly like her, but your eyes are different. Her eyes couldn't hide a single thing. Your eyes, however, are carrying too many secrets. My heart sank, inch by inch. It was over. Everything was over. I had ruined Spencer's plan. I'm sorry. I stood up, wanting to apologize, to explain. Sit down. Her tone was absolute. I had no choice but to sit back down. Spencer didn't tell me he was doing this, she said. But as his mother, how could I not understand his intentions? It's all for Leo. Ever since Audrey passed, that child locked himself away. He wouldn't speak, wouldn't see anyone. The doctors said it was severe psychological trauma. We tried everything, but nothing worked. Until you showed up. Eleanor looked at me, a hint of pleading in her eyes. I don't care who you really are, and I don't care what kind of deal you have with Spencer. I just beg you to stay by Leo's side and help him get better. As long as you can make Leo normal again, the Sterling family will never mistreat you. I listened in stunned silence. So, she knew all along. And not only did she not expose me, she was actually begging me to stay. All of this was for Leo. My nose suddenly stung. I choked out. I will take good care of Leo. Good. Eleanor nodded. With your word, I can rest easy. However, she changed the subject. Spencer has a cold personality and a stubborn temper. You'll need to be patient with him. I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded. Coming out of Eleanor's room, I was still in a daze. I hadn't expected the hardest hurdle to be cleared just like that. In the hallway, I ran into Spencer. He seemed to have been waiting for me. What did my mother say to you? He asked. I hesitated, unsure if I should tell the truth. She knows everything, I said. Spencer's face changed instantly. What did she say? His voice was tight. She told me to take good care of Leo. Spencer froze. He clearly hadn't expected this outcome. He looked at me for a long time. I see. He dropped the phrase, turned, and walked away. Watching his back, I suddenly felt that this man was actually quite pitiful. Carrying the weight of this massive family alone, while also caring for a child with psychological issues. He must be so tired. The following days passed rather peacefully. After moving into the mansion, Eleanor didn't make things difficult for me. She spent most of her time with Leo. She would read him stories and take him for walks in the garden. Thanks to her efforts, Leo gradually started accepting her. Sometimes he would hold her hand and call her grandma. Whenever that happened, Eleanor smiled so brightly. As for me, aside from continuing to play the role of Audrey flawlessly, my main focus was wholeheartedly caring for Leo. My bond with Leo grew stronger and stronger. He was completely inseparable from me now. He needed me to hold him to sleep at night, and during the day, he wanted me by his side wherever he went. Spencer seemed very busy, leaving early and coming home late. Aside from the dinner table, we rarely interacted. To me, he was still the same icy boss. It was as if I really was just a tool he hired. But I didn't mind. As long as I did my job, got the money I deserved, and saved my mom, that was enough. I didn't dare wish for anything else. It was the weekend. Spencer surprisingly didn't go to the office. He said he was taking us out to play. Leo was jumping up and down with joy. I was happy too. After all, I hadn't left the estate since I got here. We went to a massive amusement park. Probably afraid of being recognized, Spencer wore a mask and a hat. He got matching family hats for me and Leo too. Walking together, the three of us looked like the most ordinary, happy family. Leo wanted to ride the carousel. I went on with him while Spencer stood below, taking pictures of us. In the sunlight, he held up his phone, a faint smile playing on his lips. In that moment, my heart skipped a beat for no reason. I suddenly thought, If only all of this were real, how wonderful it would be. We went on many rides. Roller coasters, pirate ships, bumper cars. Leo was very brave, giggling through everything. His laughter was the most beautiful music in the world. By the time we left the park, it was getting dark. Leo was exhausted and fell asleep in the car. Holding him, watching the streetlights blur past the window, I felt a sense of unreality. "Thank you for today," I whispered to Spencer. "For what?" He kept his eyes on the road. "For taking us out." Leo was so happy. As long as he's happy. The car fell silent again. After a while, he suddenly spoke. "Next week, there's a banquet. You're coming with me." I blinked in surprise. "A banquet?" "Yeah, a business gala. It's important. Can I pull it off?" I lacked confidence. Those events were full of important people. I was afraid I would embarrass him. "I'll be there," he said. Just those few simple words somehow made me feel completely secure. Okay, I nodded. To prepare for the gala, Martha put me through another round of hellish training. From banquet etiquette to socializing, she taught me meticulously. Spencer personally picked out my dress. It was a midnight blue gown studded with crushed diamonds, shimmering like the Milky Way under the lights. On the day of the banquet, I had my makeup perfectly done, put on the dress, and stood before the mirror. The person looking back at me was so beautiful I hardly recognized myself. I took Spencer's arm and walked into the resplendent ballroom. The moment we appeared, we became the center of attention. Countless eyes fell on us. Some surprised, some envious, some jealous. I could feel Spencer shielding me from all the malicious glares. He guided me smoothly through the crowd, introducing me to his business partners. "This is my wife, Audrey." Every time, he said it so naturally that even I almost believed it. Halfway through the night, I went to the restroom. When I came out, a woman blocked my path. She was wearing a fiery red dress, heavy makeup, and her eyes held blatant hostility. "So you're the woman Spencer has been hiding?" She looked me up and down, her tone dripping with contempt. I didn't know her, nor did I want to interact with her. "Excuse me, please step aside." "Oh, got a bit of a temper, do we?" The woman sneered. "You think putting on this dress makes you a phoenix? Let me tell you, stop dreaming. Spencer is mine, and nobody is taking him away." I frowned. Where did this rival come from? "Miss, I think you've misunderstood. Mr. Sterling and I are just—" I almost blurted out our employment arrangement. "Just what?" The woman closed in. "Just playing around? Let me tell you, even if it's just playing around, you don't deserve it. Miss Vanessa." A cold voice suddenly came from behind me. I turned to see Spencer. I didn't know when he had walked up. The woman called Vanessa saw Spencer, and her face instantly changed, morphing into a coy, delicate expression. "Spencer, you're here." Spencer didn't even glance at her. He walked straight to my side and pulled me behind him. His movement carried an undeniable protectiveness. "Vanessa, I warned you to stay away from her." His voice was as cold as ice. Vanessa's face flushed red, then pale. "Spencer, I just wanted to make friends with this lady." "She doesn't need friends like you," Spencer said coldly. "Don't ever appear in front of her again." With that, he took my hand and turned to leave, leaving Vanessa stomping her feet in anger. Spencer pulled me down the long corridor. His hand was large and warm, enveloping mine, making me feel incredibly safe. "If you run into people like her again, ignore them," he said. "Who is she?" I couldn't help asking. "Someone irrelevant," he replied dismissively, clearly not wanting to elaborate. I didn't press it. Back in the ballroom, Spencer seemed in a bad mood. He drank heavily. By the end of the night, he was quite drunk. On the ride back, he leaned against the seat, eyes closed, brows furrowed tightly. Looking at his exhausted profile, I felt a pang in my heart. Someone like him probably had a lot of worries, too. Back at the mansion, I helped him out of the car. He was heavy, leaning most of his weight on me. I struggled to get him back to his room. After laying him on the bed, I was about to leave when he suddenly grabbed my hand. His hand was burning hot. "Don't go," he murmured with his eyes closed. I froze. "Audrey, don't go," he repeated. My heart felt like it was viciously stabbed. Audrey. He was drunk and thought I was Audrey. Of course. In his heart, I was only ever her stand-in. I tried to pull my hand back, but he gripped it tighter. Don't leave me. His voice carried a fragility I had never heard before. I looked at him and, as if possessed, stopped struggling. I just sat by the bed and stayed with him the entire night. The next day, I woke up to find I had fallen asleep leaning against the headboard. Spencer was no longer in the room. My neck was killing me. I rubbed it and went downstairs. Martha said Mr. Sterling had gone to the office early. I felt a bit disappointed. What did he think when he woke up and saw me sleeping in his room? Did he think I was a woman with ulterior motives? I was anxious the whole day. That evening, Spencer came home. He looked exactly the same as usual. Still that icy demeanor. During dinner, he didn't say a single word. It was as if last night had never happened. I felt even more unsettled. After dinner, I was playing with Leo when Spencer walked over. "You, come with me," he said. My heart jumped to my throat. Was he going to settle the score? I followed him into the study. He closed the door. The lights weren't on, only moonlight spilled through the window. His face was in shadow, unreadable. "About last night," he started, his voice deep. "I'm sorry." I froze. He was apologizing? "I drank too much," he said. It's fine," I quickly replied. "It won't happen again," he said. "I promise." For some reason, hearing him say that didn't make me feel relieved. Instead, my chest felt tight. "There's one more thing," he said. "What is it?" He took a box out of a drawer and handed it to me. "What is this?" "Open it and see." I opened the box. Inside was a necklace. The pendant was a tiny star. The design was simple but exquisite. "Why are you giving me a necklace?" I asked, confused. "You worked hard at the gala last time," he said. "It's a thank you gift." Another thank you gift. It seemed our relationship was entirely transactional and gratitude-based, with no other emotion allowed. "It's too expensive, I can't accept it." I pushed the box back. "Take it." His tone brooked no refusal. "You earned it." I looked at him, not knowing what to say. "Let me put it on for you." He took the necklace from the box and stepped behind me. His cold fingertips accidentally brushed against the skin of my neck. I couldn't help but flinch. He was standing so close I could smell the faint scent of cedarwood on him. My heart started accelerating traitorously again. He fastened the clasp and stepped back. "Looks good," he said. I looked down at the little star resting on my chest, my feelings a tangled mess. Just then, the study door was pushed open. Eleanor stood in the doorway, her face dark. "What are you two doing?" "For." I jumped, quickly putting distance between Spencer and me. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Spencer frowned. If I hadn't come, would I have seen something I shouldn't? Eleanor's gaze scraped over me like a knife. "Spencer, don't forget who she is. She's just a stand-in." Eleanor's words were like a bucket of ice water poured right over my head. Right. I was just a stand-in. How did I forget? I almost thought I meant something slightly different to Spencer. Turns out, it was all my own delusion. "Mom, it's not what you think," Spencer explained. "Not what I think. Then what is it?" Eleanor's voice grew agitated. "Have you forgotten Audrey? Are you falling for this imposter?" "I am not." Spencer raised his voice. "You're not." Eleanor sneered. "Then tell her what's hanging around your neck." Spencer instinctively touched his neck. He was wearing a necklace, too. The pendant was a moon. A star and a moon. A matching pair. My heart twisted painfully. He had given me a couple's necklace. "This is just..." Spencer tried to explain. "Enough." Eleanor cut him off. "Spencer Sterling, I am warning you, do not do anything to betray Audrey. Leo needs a mother, not a stepmother." With that, she glared at me fiercely and stormed out. Only Spencer and I were left in the study. The awkwardness was suffocating. "I'm sorry," he spoke first. "My mother, she..." "It's fine," I interrupted, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Mrs. Sterling is right. I'm just a stand-in. I shouldn't have delusional thoughts." I reached up to take off the necklace. "What are you doing?" He grabbed my hand. "I can't take this," I said. "Keep it on." His tone was forceful. Mr. Sterling, please get our relationship straight. I looked him in the eye, speaking carefully. We are employer and employee, nothing more. I don't want to cause any unnecessary misunderstandings. I forcefully pulled my hand from his grip, unclasped the necklace, and placed it on the desk. Then, without looking back, I walked out of the study. Back in my room, I closed the door, leaned against it, and cried. Chloe, you're such a fool. How could you develop feelings for your boss? You two are from completely different worlds. From that day on, my relationship with Spencer plummeted to freezing. We barely exchanged basic pleasantries. The way he looked at me was colder than before. The atmosphere in the house grew oppressive. Eleanor was even harder on me, constantly watching me like I was a homewrecker trying to seduce her son. Only Leo still clung to me like before. He was my only warmth in this place. One day, I got a call from my dad. He said my mom's condition had suddenly worsened. The doctor said she needed an immediate kidney transplant. But finding a match was incredibly hard, and the surgery cost was an astronomical figure. My dad was sobbing on the phone. I hung up, totally panicked. What was I going to do? Where could I find a kidney? Where could I get that much money? The first person I thought of was Spencer. But given our current situation, how could I even ask? I hesitated for a long time before knocking on his study door. Come in. I pushed the door open. He was sitting at his desk, going through documents. What is it? He didn't look up. I gritted my teeth. I'd like an advance on my salary. He finally looked up at me. What do you need money for? My mom, she needs surgery. My voice shook. He fell silent. After a moment, he asked, how much? I don't know. The doctor said as much as possible. I see, he said. Don't worry about the money, I'll handle it. As for the kidney. He paused. I'll figure something out. I couldn't believe my ears. He was willing to help me? Why? I asked. You are Leo's mother right now, he said. I can't let Leo's mother be distracted by worries. For Leo again. Though I felt a pang of disappointment, I was still deeply grateful. Thank you, I said sincerely. No need. Walking out of the study, my heart was finally somewhat at ease. Spencer was incredibly efficient. The next day, the hospital notified me that a matching kidney had been found. The surgery was scheduled immediately. I asked for a few days off to care for my mom. Spencer didn't object and even sent a chauffeured car for me. The surgery was a success. The doctor said my mom was recovering well. The giant boulder on my chest was finally lifted. It was late at night by the time I returned to the mansion. A single light was left on in the living room. Spencer was sitting on the sofa, seemingly waiting for me. You're back, he asked. Yeah. How is your mother? The surgery was successful. Thank you. That's good. We fell into silence again. I gathered my courage. About the kidney and the surgery costs, how much was it? I'll pay you back. You don't have to, he said. No, this is different, I insisted. The $5 million in the contract is my salary. But this time you went out of your way to help me. I have to repay you. He looked at me, his eyes deep. Chloe. He suddenly called my name. Do you think all that's left between us is a transaction? I froze. Wasn't it? He stood up and walked toward me, step by step. I instinctively backed away. He backed me into a corner until there was nowhere left to go. He looked down at me. What if I said it isn't? His voice was light, soft, carrying a hint of seduction. My heart started pounding wildly again. What? What do you mean? He didn't answer. He just slowly leaned in. His face magnified in my vision. I could feel his warm breath on my skin. I was so nervous I forgot to breathe. Just as his lips were about to touch mine. Ahem. Eleanor's voice broke the spell at the worst possible moment. She was standing at the top of the stairs, glaring at us coldly. I shoved Spencer away like I'd been shocked. I'm going upstairs. I practically sprinted away. My face was burning like fire. Just a little bit more. Spencer and I almost kissed. I had insomnia that night. Spencer's magnified face and his question, what if I said it isn't, played on a loop in my head. What did he mean? What kind of feelings did he have for me? I didn't dare to think about it. I didn't want to think about it. When I went downstairs the next day, I found Eleanor and Spencer arguing in the living room. The tension was palpable. You must make her leave. Eleanor was agitated. Out of the question. Spencer's stance was firm. Spencer Sterling, are you going to go against your own mother for an outsider? She's not an outsider. If she's not an outsider, what is she? Don't forget, Audrey has only been gone a year. Mom, can we please stop bringing up Audrey? Spencer's voice held a trace of agony. Why shouldn't I? She was your legally wedded wife. Leo's biological mother. She's dead. Spencer practically yelled. The living room fell dead silent. I hid in the stairwell corner, not daring to breathe. It took a long time for Eleanor to speak again, her voice weary. Spencer, tell me the truth. Are you in love with her? I held my breath. I saw Spencer stiffen. He didn't answer. But his silence said everything. My heart hammered wildly. Was he really in love with me? Absurd. Eleanor's voice was full of disappointment. Utterly absurd. I will not let you ruin the Sterling family's reputation, and I won't let you betray Audrey. I'm sending her away tomorrow. With that, Eleanor turned and went upstairs. Spencer was left alone in the living room, standing like a statue. I didn't know if I should go down. I was afraid that appearing now would only humiliate him further. I quietly retreated to my room. I lay in bed, tossing and turning. Eleanor was going to send me away. What about my mom? The contract wasn't up yet. Would I still get the $5 million? And Leo, he relied on me so much. What would happen to him if I left? The more I thought about it, the more panicked I felt. I don't know how long passed before there was a knock on my door. It startled me. Who is it? It's me. Spencer's voice. I hesitated but opened the door. He stood there, looking awful. Pack your things, he said. Go where? My heart sank. Was he sending me away? Leave here. I knew it. My heart ached like it was being pricked by 1,000 needles. What about Leo? I asked. He's coming with me. Then, my money. I knew bringing up money now ruined the mood, but I had to. It was my mom's lifeline. You won't be shorted. His tone was freezing. My heart went completely cold. So, to him, I was still just a woman who only cared about money. I smiled self-deprecatingly. All right, I'll pack right now. I didn't have much to pack. I only had one backpack when I arrived. I changed into my own clothes, neatly folded that midnight blue dress, and placed it on the bed. I put the star necklace on the nightstand, too. None of this belonged to me. When I opened the door, Spencer was waiting outside. Leo was there, rubbing his sleepy eyes, nestled in Spencer's arms. Mommy? Leo reached out when he saw me. I walked over and stroked his cheek. Be a good boy, Leo. Mommy has to go on a long trip. Where is Mommy going? Tears welled up in Leo's eyes. Mommy's going far away, but I'll be back soon. I lied. I couldn't tell him I was never coming back. Then Leo wants to go with Mommy. You can't, sweetheart. You have to go to school. Tears pricked my eyes. I was afraid if I said another word, I'd break down. I turned to Spencer. Let's go. Spencer gave me a deep look, didn't say a word, and walked ahead carrying Leo. We didn't leave through the front gates. Instead, we sneaked out the back in a very ordinary Volkswagen. Spencer drove me to an apartment. It wasn't big, but it was clean. You'll stay here for now, he said. If you need anything, call me. This is your card. The PIN is your birthday. He handed me a bank card. The money inside is enough for you and your mother to live comfortably for the rest of your lives. I didn't take it. Mr. Sterling, our contract isn't up yet, I said. I'll pay the breach of contract fee. I don't want the penalty fee. I looked at him. I want to fulfill my contract. Chloe. A trace of impatience leaked into his voice. What exactly do you want? I want to stay by Leo's side, I said. At least until the contract ends. Out of the question. His refusal was blunt. Why? I pressed. Just because your mother disagrees? Do you really think I care about my mother's opinion? He suddenly laughed coldly. Then what is it? He looked at me, his eyes turning incredibly complicated. Because I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself. Saying that seemed to drain all his strength. My heart skipped a beat. I'm afraid I'll truly fall in love with you. 5. Boom. My mind went completely blank. What? What did he just say? He said he was afraid of falling in love with me? So he wasn't sending me away because Eleanor opposed it or because he hated me. He was sending me away because he had feelings for me and he was terrified of them? I looked at him and he looked back. There was struggle in his eyes, pain, and a deep affection I couldn't decipher. Spencer. It was the first time I used his first name. My voice trembled. Have you forgotten Audrey? I asked the cruelest question possible. He visibly stiffened. I haven't forgotten. His voice was low. I will never forget her. But, Chloe, you are not her. You're not her shadow, you are you. I know the difference clearly. I couldn't control my tears anymore. They fell in large drops. I had waited too long for those words. He pulled me into his arms, hugging me incredibly tightly. I'm sorry, he whispered in my ear. I'm sorry for putting you through so much. I buried my face in his shoulder and bawled. I cried out all the grievances, insecurities, and fears I had bottled up. He didn't speak, just held me quietly, gently patting my back. When I had cried enough, he finally let me go. He tenderly wiped the tears from my face with his thumb. Stop crying, he said. You're ruining your pretty face. He made me laugh through my tears. So, what do we do now? I asked. Come home with me, he said. But your mother. I'll handle it. His tone brooked no refusal. Just trust me. Looking at his determined eyes, I nodded. Okay. We didn't return to the mansion immediately. Spencer had me stay at the apartment, saying he needed some time to handle things. He left Leo with me to keep me company. He said he was afraid I'd overthink if I was alone. For the next few days, Spencer didn't show up. He only called every night to check on Leo and me. The calls were brief, but I could tell he was exhausted. I knew he was dealing with something very thorny, likely concerning Eleanor. I didn't ask, I chose to trust him. Leo and I lived a very peaceful life in the apartment. Without the rules of the Sterling family and Eleanor's scrutinizing gaze, I felt much lighter. Leo started talking more. He'd tell me funny stories from kindergarten. He'd ask when Daddy was coming back. Whenever he did, I'd say Daddy was fighting monsters and would be back as soon as he won. A week later, Spencer finally returned. He looked much thinner and haggard. It's all sorted, he told me. My mother, she agreed. Really? I couldn't believe it. How could someone as stubborn as Eleanor suddenly bless us? I transferred 10% of my company shares to my stepmother, Spencer said flatly. I was shocked. Spencer's stepmother? I'd never heard he had one. After my dad passed away, my mom remarried, Spencer explained. She married my dad's former driver. That woman has always harbored resentment towards my mom and me. The real reason my mom opposed us so fiercely this time was because she was instigating behind the scenes. She told my mom that if I married a woman of unknown origins, it would ruin the Sterling reputation and dishonor my late father and Audrey. My mom values reputation and past affections more than anything. That's how she got manipulated. I finally understood the complicated history behind everything. So you gave her the shares, and she just let it go? All she ever wanted was money, Spencer said with a hint of disdain. But your loss is so huge. 10% of Sterling Group shares was an astronomical sum. Money can be earned back. He looked at me with serious eyes. But if I lost you, where would I find another? My heart fluttered again. This man, usually so quiet, was absolutely lethal when he spoke romantic words. Then let's go home, I said. Yeah, let's go home. Taking Leo, we returned to the White Mansion. This time, I felt completely different. Last time, I walked in trembling as a hired stand-in. This time, I was walking in openly as the lady of the house. Eleanor was there. She still looked displeased to see me, but she didn't say anything nasty. She just gave a cold scoff and went upstairs. I knew she still had reservations. But it was okay. I had plenty of time to slowly melt the iceberg in her heart. Life seemed to return to normal, yet some things had changed. Spencer was no longer icy toward me. He ate with me, took Leo to the park with me. He told me stories when I couldn't sleep, even though they were incredibly boring. When I had my period and my stomach hurt, he'd make me brown sugar ginger tea, even though it was sickeningly sweet. He treated me well in his own clumsy way, and I gradually got used to a life with him in it. One day, while organizing the study, I accidentally found a locked drawer. I was curious. I tried various keys, but nothing worked. That night when Spencer came home, I asked him, "What's in that drawer?" His expression changed. "Nothing." The more he said that, the more curious I got. "Just tell me," I coaxed, holding onto his arm. Unable to resist, he finally took out a key and opened it. Inside was only a diary. The cover was dark blue and looked very old. "Is this Audrey's diary?" I asked. "No." Spencer shook his head. "It's mine." I was stunned. "His diary?" I picked it up and flipped to the first page. The handwriting was youthful but elegant. "Today, I met a very special girl. Her name is Audrey. When she smiles, her eyes look like crescents. Very pretty." I flipped through the pages. It detailed their entire journey from meeting to falling in love to getting married. Every line was filled with love. I could tell he used to love Audrey deeply. My heart felt a bit sour. I flipped to the last page. The date was a year ago. "Audrey, you're gone. My world has collapsed. What do I do? Leo isn't speaking anymore. He's locked himself away. Looking at him is like looking at myself. I'm so scared he'll end up like me. Today, I saw a girl who looks exactly like you. I made a crazy decision. I know it's unfair to her and unfair to you, but I have no other choice. Audrey, will you blame me?" By the time I finished reading, tears blurred my vision. So he had been struggling in agony from the very beginning. He wasn't using me. He was just a desperate father trying to save his child and himself in the clumsiest way possible. I closed the diary and hugged him. "I don't blame you," I said. And she wouldn't either. "I don't blame you at all." He hugged me back tightly. "Chloe, thank you. Thank you for walking into my life." 6. From that day on, the last barrier between Spencer and me vanished. We dated like any normal couple. He took me to eat street food and went to midnight movies with me. He memorized all my preferences. He knew I hated cilantro, and he knew I liked extra boba in my milk tea. He spoiled me like a princess. Even Eleanor's attitude softened. She saw Leo growing happier and more vocal by the day, and she knew I was the reason. She began to quietly accept my presence. Sometimes, she would even initiate conversations with me. Her tone was still stiff, but it was worlds better than before. I thought life would just continue this happily. Until one day, I received a call from an unknown number. It was a woman's voice. "Chloe, let's meet." "Who are you?" I asked. "Who I am doesn't matter," she said. "What matters is that I know a secret about Audrey." My heart jumped. "A secret about Audrey? Why should I believe you?" "Because of this." She played an audio recording. It was a conversation between two men. "Is it done?" "Don't worry. I've already tampered with the sister-in-law's car. I guarantee she won't make it back." "Good. Once she's dead and Spencer collapses, the entire Sterling group will be ours." My hands and feet instantly went ice cold. "Sister-in-law? Audrey? Her car crash wasn't an accident. It was murder. Who exactly are you?" My voice was shaking. "If you want the truth, come to the abandoned factory on the west side of town. You have 1 hour." The line went dead. I held the phone, trembling all over. What should I do? Should I tell Spencer? No. If he found out, given his temper, he would seek revenge at all costs. It would only alert the enemy. I had to go myself. I had to know who killed Audrey. I texted Spencer, saying I was meeting a friend and would be back late. Then I took a cab to the abandoned factory. It was massive and dilapidated. Following the directions from the call, I walked to the innermost warehouse. It was dim inside, lit only by a single yellow bulb. A woman stood in the center with her back to me. "You're here." She turned around. When I saw her face, I froze. It was Vanessa, the woman who tried to start trouble with me at the gala. "It's you." I frowned. Surprised? Vanessa sneered. "Why did you bring me here? What do you want?" "I don't want anything," Vanessa said. "I just want you to see clearly what kind of man you've fallen in love with." "What do you mean? Did you think Audrey's crash was really an accident? Did you think Spencer really loved her?" Vanessa pulled a document out of her bag and threw it at me. Read it yourself. I picked it up and opened it. My pupils contracted. It was a share transfer agreement. The agreement clearly stated that prior to their marriage, Audrey had transferred all her assets to Spencer. And her assets accounted for nearly 30% of Sterling Group's shares at the time. Meaning, Spencer didn't marry her for love. He married her for her shares. How could this? I couldn't believe it. Hard to believe? Vanessa smiled even more triumphantly. What's even harder to believe is yet to come. Before the crash, Audrey discovered Spencer's true colors. She was preparing to divorce him and take back her shares. So, Spencer struck first. He orchestrated the car crash to silence her forever. Impossible, I shouted. He isn't that kind of person. Not that kind of person? Vanessa looked at me like I had told the world's biggest joke. Chloe, you're so naive. Did you think he loves you? He only loves that face of yours that looks exactly like Audrey's. He keeps you around just as a smokescreen to make himself look like a devoted husband. You are an absolute stand-in. A tool. Every word Vanessa said was like a knife twisting into my heart. No, I didn't believe it. Spencer wasn't like that. He was so good to me. How could he be a murderer? You're lying. I looked at Vanessa, my eyes red. Why are you saying this? What's your agenda? I'm not lying, Vanessa said. Everything I said is true. As for my agenda, she paused, her eyes turning venomous. I loved Spencer for so many years. Why didn't he love me back? Why did he fall for that bitch Audrey, and then an imposter like you? If I can't have him, neither of you will. I'm going to destroy him. I'm going to ruin his reputation and leave him with nothing. Vanessa's expression was deranged. With this recording and this document, as soon as I hand them over to the police, Spencer's life is over. You're crazy. I am crazy. Vanessa laughed maniacally. He drove me crazy. Just then, the warehouse door was kicked open violently. Spencer stormed in with a large group of bodyguards. Seeing me, he immediately ran over and shielded me behind him. Are you okay? He asked tensely. I shook my head, my mind still reeling in chaos. Spencer, you're here. Vanessa wasn't surprised at all. She smiled even wider. Looks like you knew I'd come. Vanessa, what exactly are you trying to do? Spencer's voice was ice cold. What do I want to do? I want you to die. Vanessa suddenly pulled a gun from behind her back and aimed it at Spencer. I screamed in terror. No. Spencer, I'll ask you one last time. Vanessa's eyes were filled with a crazed mixture of love and hate. Did you ever love me? No. Spencer answered without a second of hesitation. Good. Very good. Vanessa gave a wretched laugh. Since I can't have you, let's go to hell together. She went to pull the trigger. In that hair-raising second, a figure suddenly lunged from the side and tackled Vanessa. It was Eleanor. She had arrived without us noticing. The gun went flying from Vanessa's hand. The bodyguards rushed forward and pinned her down. Everything happened so fast. Before I could process it, the police had arrived. Vanessa was taken away. Only a few of us remained in the warehouse. Eleanor walked up to Spencer, raised her hand, and slapped him across the face. You bastard! She was trembling with anger. Why did you hide something this huge from me? Spencer didn't dodge. He took the slap straight on. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm not the one you should apologize to. Eleanor pointed at me. You owe Chloe an apology. You dragged her into this. Did you ever stop to think she might be in danger? I looked at them, my mind a complete mess. I walked up to Spencer and handed him the share transfer agreement. Is this real? I asked. Spencer looked at the agreement and went silent. My heart sank, inch by inch. It's real, he finally spoke. My world collapsed in that split second. So, everything Vanessa said was true. He married Audrey for her shares. How good he was to me was all fake. I was just a tool he utilized. I laughed. It was an uglier sight than crying. Spencer, you're really something. I looked at him, enunciating every word. I must be completely blind to have fallen for you. With that, I turned and ran. I didn't want to see him anymore. Not even for a second. 7. I don't know how long I ran or where I ended up. All I knew was that my heart hurt so much, like it was being ripped apart alive. It started to rain. The freezing raindrops hit my face, mixing with my tears. I sat down on a park bench, hugging myself, shivering. I was so cold. My body was cold, but my heart was colder. I thought I had found my prince, but he turned out to be a liar and a murderer. I really was the biggest fool in the world. I don't know how much time passed before an umbrella appeared over my head. I looked up to see Eleanor. She stood before me holding the umbrella, her expression complex. "Come back with me," she said. "The rain is getting heavier. You'll get sick." "I'm not going back." I shook my head. "I don't want to see him ever again." "Chloe," Eleanor sat down beside me. "I know you're very hurt right now, but you might have misunderstood some things." "Misunderstood?" I scoffed. It was in black and white. What's there to misunderstand? "That share transfer agreement is real," Eleanor said. "But the truth isn't what Vanessa claimed." I looked at her, saying nothing. Years ago, Sterling Group faced an unprecedented crisis. The capital chain broke, and we were on the verge of bankruptcy. It was Audrey who voluntarily put up her entire net worth to help Spencer tide over the crisis. That agreement was forced onto Spencer by Audrey. She said what was hers was his, no dividing lines. Spencer never plotted to steal Audrey's wealth. He even wanted to return those shares to her after the company stabilized, but Audrey refused. As for Audrey's crash, Eleanor's eyes turned red. It truly wasn't an accident. But the murderer wasn't Spencer. It was Spencer's stepbrother, my useless stepson, Victor. He's the man in the recording. He and Vanessa are biological siblings. They've always envied Spencer and wanted to seize Sterling Group for themselves. So they orchestrated the crash to kill Audrey, hoping Spencer would collapse so they could swoop in. All these years, Spencer has been secretly investigating. He didn't tell you because he was afraid you'd be in danger. Today, he had actually laid a trap to catch Victor and Vanessa all at once. He just didn't expect that lunatic Vanessa to drag you into it. Hearing Eleanor's words, I was completely stunned. So, that was the truth. I had wronged him. I had actually wronged him. Then I said such horrible things to him. I regretted it so much I wanted to slap myself. He won't blame you. Eleanor patted my hand. That boy's personality is like that. He likes to shoulder everything alone. Go back to him. He must be heartbroken right now. I stood up, ready to run back. But suddenly, a wave of dizziness hit me. My vision went black, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. Spencer was keeping watch beside me, holding my hand. His eyes were bloodshot. He looked incredibly haggard. "You're awake." Seeing me open my eyes, he asked nervously, "Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Looking at him, my tears fell again. "I'm sorry." I choked out. "I'm sorry, I misunderstood you." "Idiot." He pulled me into his arms. "I'm the one who should apologize. I didn't protect you." I buried my face in his chest, feeling his familiar warmth and heartbeat. In that moment, I finally felt like I truly existed. "What about Vanessa and Victor?" I asked. "They've been arrested," Spencer said. "They will pay the price for what they've done." "That's good." I leaned against him, feeling an unprecedented peace. All the misunderstandings were cleared up. All the bad guys had received their due punishment. "Chloe," he called me suddenly. Let's get married." I froze. "What did you say?" I said, "Let's get married." He pulled a velvet box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a sparkling diamond ring. "I don't want you to be a stand-in for anyone anymore." He looked at me, his eyes deadly serious. "I want you to be my legally wedded wife and Leo's mother. Chloe, will you marry me?" My tears broke the dam again. But this time, they were tears of joy. I nodded firmly. "I will." Smiling, he slipped the ring onto my ring finger. Not too big, not too small, a perfect fit. He leaned down and kissed my lips. The kiss was light, gentle, carrying the preciousness of something lost and found. Outside the window, the rain had stopped and the sky was clear. A rainbow hung on the horizon. I knew my happiness was just beginning. Spencer and I had a low-key wedding. We only invited our close family. My parents, Eleanor and Leo. Leo was our ring bearer. Dressed in a little white suit, carrying the rings, he walked toward us step by step. He was completely normal now. Talkative, smiley, like a little son. At the wedding, he hugged my leg and yelled loudly, "Mommy, you look so pretty today." Everyone laughed. I looked at Spencer and he looked at me. We smiled at each other, our eyes filled with deep, unwavering love. Life after marriage was happy and tranquil. Spencer handed most of the company's affairs over to professional executives. He spent more time keeping me and Leo company. We traveled, went to see the ocean, built snowmen. We left our footprints all over the world, creating countless beautiful memories. Eleanor fully accepted me, treating me like a daughter. She would hold my hand and tell me embarrassing stories from Spencer's childhood, making him blush every time. And I could finally, openly, call her mom. Everything was so perfect, like a dream. But this time I knew. It wasn't a dream. This was the life I truly possessed. It was a happiness I earned with my own kindness and bravery. It took Julian Vance 10 whole years to win Peyton over. So, when she found out he was seeing someone else, Peyton didn't even know how to lash out. At the dinner table, she simply scooped up a spoonful of soup and blew on it. "The one you're keeping on the side, you really like her?" Julian half-crouched beside her, grasping the hand holding her spoon. The soup spilled, burning the back of her hand red. When Mia first got with me, she didn't know anything. His voice dropped lower. "She gave me her first time, so I have to take responsibility." Peyton felt like her heart had plunged right into that bowl of boiling soup. Before they got married, she was set up by Julian's bitter rival and lost her virginity in a hotel. By the time Julian rushed there, it was too late. He didn't say a word and quickly married her. That thorn had always been lodged in his heart. Now he was taking that thorn and stabbing it back into her. "You said you didn't care." Her voice trembled. Julian sighed. "I thought I didn't care either." He looked at her, his eyes somewhat empty. But watching Mia transform from a girl into a woman beneath me. "Peyton, that kind of satisfaction is something you can't give me. Just treat this as making it up to me. Don't make a scene." Large tears dropped from Peyton's eyes into the soup bowl. She remembered their first meeting, the young boy following behind her, clumsy but earnest. "Can you be my girlfriend? I'll only ever love you." The face before her hadn't changed much. But the person inside was long gone. His phone rang. Julian looked at the screen, and the corners of his mouth lifted subconsciously. Peyton hadn't seen that expression on him in a long time. He answered it right in front of her. Faking sick again, his voice turned incredibly soft. "Wait there, I'm coming right over." He hung up, only then remembering her. He waved the phone. "The little girl is high maintenance. I have to go check on her. I won't be back tonight." The door closed. Peyton sat there, biting her lip fiercely until she tasted blood. She picked up her phone and texted Attorney Davis, "My husband is cheating. Handle it." When Julian returned, he smelled of an unfamiliar, sweet perfume. Peyton was in the kitchen brewing fruit tea. He leaned against the doorframe, speaking as if reading an itinerary. "Mia is pregnant. I'm putting her in the East Lake condo so she can rest and protect the baby. Don't go over there." The spoon clattered into the pot, splashing scalding hot tea all over her hand. A patch of skin instantly turned red. She didn't feel the pain. She rushed over, her nails blindly clawing at his face. "You promised you'd never make me sad." A bloody scratch appeared on Julian's cheek. He frowned, wiped it, but still pulled her into a hug. "It's just her. Once the baby is born, I'll send it away. I'll never let it wander in front of you. And if I say no?" He let go of her. "You've always been understanding." His tone grew indifferent. "You are still Mrs. Vance. What else do you have to complain about?" The door was pushed open a crack. A young face peeked in, a delicate voice asking, "Julian, I can't stand for much longer." Julian quickly walked over and led her inside. "Didn't I tell you to wait in the car?" Mia saw the scratch on his face and covered her mouth. "Does it hurt?" Her eyes immediately reddened. Julian pulled her into an embrace, his voice soft as water. "Just a scratch." Peyton didn't mean it. Mia looked timidly at Peyton, biting her lip. Peyton felt disoriented. Whose home was this? Before she could speak, Julian had already stepped in front of Mia to shield her. Don't agitate her. Pregnant women shouldn't be stressed. Mia clutched her lower belly, eyes welling with tears. Peyton, if you're angry, take it out on me. Don't hurt Julian. Doesn't your heart ache for him? The tears spilled over. Julian wiped them away with his thumb. Silly girl, it doesn't hurt. Holding Mia's hand, he looked at Peyton. I'll be staying over there. Don't wait up. I'm taking the chef with me. She's a picky eater. He pulled a card from his wallet and placed it on the kitchen counter. If you're bored, go out and buy something. The edge of the card was sharp, digging into Peyton's palm. In the past, when the seasons changed, he would personally pick out her clothes and shoes. He bought the shampoo in the house, even perfectly stocking her preferred brand of sanitary pads every month. Later, half his effort was replaced by money. Now, only this cold card was left. Before leaving, he looked back. She couldn't bear to abort it, cried all night. It's a life. When it's born, I won't acknowledge it. I'll give them money and send them away. Once they're settled, I'll come back. We'll be just like before. Peyton listened like it was an awful joke. She stood by the window and watched him protect Mia's head as he helped her into the car, treating her like a priceless treasure. This villa was so empty she could hear echoes. It was time for her to leave. Late at night, the phone rang. It was Julian. He never woke her at this hour. Assuming there was an emergency, she answered immediately. It was Mia's voice. Peyton, Julian has a fever and keeps mumbling about the fruit tea you brew. Could you bring some over? Peyton brewed a pot and drove to East Lake. When Mia opened the door, Peyton saw Julian in loungewear, sitting on the living room rug, assembling a white crib. He was completely focused. Mia turned her head and gave a coy laugh. Julian, Peyton brought the tea. Julian stood up, dusting off his hands. Mia had a sudden craving. Outside stuff isn't clean. I remembered you brew it often, so I had to ask you to make the trip. Chapter 2. The sound of the thermos shattering was sharp. Porcelain exploded, splashing scalding tea across the floor. Peyton's hand remained suspended midair. Julian, it's so hot. Julian rushed over. Ignoring the mess on the floor, he scooped Mia up into his arms like a reclaimed piece of fine china. Peyton. The venom in his voice could flay someone alive. It's just brewing some tea, and you can't even stomach that? Mia buried her face in his chest, fingers gripping his shirt, her voice trembling. I just didn't catch it properly. Don't blame Peyton. Julian looked down, nuzzling the top of her head, his tone softening drastically. I'm not blaming you. He looked up, pinning Peyton with his gaze. I know her too well. Carrying Mia, he turned to walk out, dropping his words like broken glass. Clean it up. Mia likes walking barefoot at home. When you're done, walk over it barefoot yourself to check. If there's a single shard left and she cuts her foot, it's on you. The footsteps faded. The night settled into the low hum of the radiator. Peyton crouched down. Her fingers brushed the sharp edge of a porcelain shard. First cold, then pain. Beads of blood welled up, dripping onto the dark floor, quickly spreading. She suddenly remembered when she was learning to embroider years ago. The needle pricked her finger, didn't even draw blood, just a tiny red dot. Julian grabbed her hand, dragging her to the sunlight by the window to inspect it over and over. His eyes turned red. Peyton, let's not do this anymore, okay? You get pricked by a needle, and my heart feels like it's being twisted. I won't let you get hurt, not even a scratch. The walk-in closet was brightly lit. Peyton pulled open every drawer and cabinet. Discontinued jewelry, designer bags with tags still on, custom gowns with sequins catching the cold light. He had personally placed them all inside. She used to think this room was the vault of security he had built for her with material wealth, locking in a lifetime of stability. She began dragging things out. Silk scarves, dresses, cashmere coats. She balled them up into a chaotic pile and shoved them all into giant black trash bags. Zipping them shut produced a long, dry tearing sound. Finally, she pulled a craft paper envelope from the depths of a drawer. She dumped it out, a thick stack. Various medical exams, lab reports, imaging scans. The edges of the paper were slightly curled, tired from being handled so many times. To have a child, how many vials of blood had she given? How many cold examination tables had she lain on? She couldn't remember. The doctor's tone during her last visit was almost pleading. All your vitals are perfect. Relax. Stop torturing yourself. She didn't listen. Now, pinching that stack of paper, she started ripping. Folded in half, then torn. When it wouldn't tear, she twisted it into mangled clumps. Paper confetti fluttered into the trash can like a silent, miniature blizzard. After tearing it all, she leaned against the cold wall and called her lawyer. The summons, has it been sent to him? We go to court next month. The lawyer's voice was steady, possessing a professional certainty. Rest assured, there's a 100% chance the divorce will be granted on the spot. The decision to return to her hometown was spontaneous. She only told Julian she needed to go back for a bit. Early the next morning, his car was parked outside. He didn't come in, just called from outside, "Peyton, I'll drive you." "Are you packed?" She pulled the car door open. In the passenger seat sat Mia. Peyton's hand stopped on the door handle, unmoving. Mia heard we're going to the countryside and wanted to tag along to see. Julian leaned over from the driver's seat to explain, sounding like it was the most natural thing in the world. She's never been. Besides, the seat is empty. Peyton slammed the car door shut. "I'm not going." An arm tightened around her waist. Julian had gotten out of the car at some point, wrapped an arm around her, opened the door again, and somewhat forcefully pushed her into the back seat. "I bought all the gifts for your parents. Stop making a fuss." The door closed. Mia's soft voice drifted from the front. "Peyton, I insisted on tagging along. Please don't be mad at Julian. He says your hometown has beautiful mountains and rivers, and it's very peaceful. The doctor said, a quiet place like this is perfect for my pregnancy." Peyton leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes. The car stopped. Julian quickly got out and walked around the front. Peyton watched him approach her side, the freezing embers of hope in her heart giving a weak flutter. He reached for the door handle, and then walked right past it to open the front door. He hovered one hand over Mia's head and held her tightly with the other, carefully helping her out. "Watch the step. Is it too sunny? Do you want an umbrella?" Peyton pushed her door open and got out herself. The old family courtyard gates were shut tight. After 2 years away, the weeds were knee-high, the paint peeling. The key went into the lock, turning stiffly. As the door opened, the smell of ancient dust rushed out. Mia covered her nose and mouth, shrinking back into Julian's arms. "Julian, it's so dirty here. How can anyone live here?" Julian looked at Peyton, adopting a negotiating tone. "Peyton, how about we stay at a hotel first? I'll hire people to deep clean it tomorrow, and then you can stay here. Is that okay?" Peyton didn't answer. She reached out and touched the door frame. Years ago, this was the exact door he carried her through when they got married. That day, he stood in this courtyard, facing her parents' room, and gave 3 solid kowtows. "Thank you, Mom and Dad, for raising Peyton so well. I, Julian Vance, will only ever have her in this lifetime." She shook her head. "I'm staying home. Do what you want." The next morning, she was woken by noise in the yard. Looking out the window, a few workers were clearing the weeds, moving efficiently. Peyton ignored it and left the house. She strolled through the morning market, not returning until the vendors packed up. Pushing the courtyard door open, she froze. The antique furniture from the house, the patina-rich dining table, her mother's dowry-carved wooden chest, the wrought tin chair her father always sat in, had all been tossed into the center of the yard. Smashed to pieces. Along with her parents' old books, tin boxes, and unrecognizable items, they were piled up in ruins. "Who told you to touch my things?" Her voice cracked. Mia strolled out casually from the house, her hand resting lightly on her barely there belly. "I really like the vibe of this courtyard. It's quiet." She smiled. "I mentioned it to Julian last night, and he got people to clean it up. Look, the garbage is mostly cleared out." Peyton trembled all over, a film of blood red washing over her vision. Mia stepped closer, lowering her voice, a smile playing on her lips. Peyton, do you understand now what it means? A mother's status rises with her child? Peyton raised her hand. Peyton, what are you doing? Julian grabbed her wrist fiercely from behind and shoved her hard. Peyton fell backward, crashing right into the pile of ruins. Splinters of broken wood and rusty nails instantly pierced her palms and forearms. Sharp pain exploded, and warm blood immediately welled up. Julian completely shielded Mia behind him, looking at Peyton with nothing but pure disgust. How many times do I have to tell you? Don't touch her. When the child is born, I'll send them away. You can't even hold back for a few months. Mia started whimpering softly behind him. Julian, let's go. She hates me so much, I'm terrified for the baby. Chapter 3. She clutched her stomach, her body suddenly sagging. Julian, her voice was dripping with forced fragility, my stomach, it hurts so much. All the color drained from Julian's face. The car, he roared backward. Get to the hospital, now. Peyton stood rooted to the spot. The workers in the yard were systematically smashing and discarding her remaining belongings. Dust billowed up, blurring the sight of him sprinting away with Mia in his arms. She had seen that exact back profile before. During a college gym class, she had tripped on the track. That boy scaled a 2-meter fence, scraping his knees raw, and sprinted over to scoop her up. His heartbeat hammered against her eardrums, rapid and heavy. Peyton, he panted, sweat dripping onto her collarbone. If anything happens, you have to call me first. I don't trust anyone else taking care of you. Dust choked her throat. Peyton closed her eyes and let herself fall backward. Her spine slammed against the cold, hard ground. In the distance, a car door slammed shut. The engine roared over her memories. She propped herself up, looking down at her calf. A rusty nail was buried deep into her flesh. She reached out, grasped the head of the nail, and yanked it out violently. Squelch. The muffled sound of flesh tearing. She tossed the first bloody nail onto the ground. She remembered a torrential downpour, him sprinting back completely soaked, pulling a piping hot bag of roasted chestnuts from his coat. The bag was dry, his fingers were frozen red. She pulled out the second nail. The year they had a massive fight, he stood outside her dorm for 3 days and 3 nights. He collapsed in the end. His medical report read, severe dehydration, electrolyte imbalance. The third nail. The garden he built for her, claiming it would only ever grow her favorite roses. Now, those flowers were probably just like this old furniture, uprooted and pulverized into dust. The nails fell to the ground by her feet, making sharp clinking noises. Blood slowly seeped out, staining the hem of her skirt. Between them, absolutely nothing was left. The smell of disinfectant in the hospital hallway was heavy. Peyton dragged her injured leg and stopped outside the ward door. Through the glass, she saw Mia lying against pristine white sheets. Julian stood by the bed, his fingertips gently brushing her cheek. You're just too tense. His voice held a gentleness she hadn't heard in ages. The baby is fine. Mia shrank into his embrace, her voice sticky and soft. I was just so scared. This is our first baby. He leaned down and kissed the top of her head. Silly. The baby will be happy if you're happy. Julian, Mia gripped his shirt, shaking it lightly. I want to go back with you. Peyton seems to really dislike me. Her voice dropped into a sob. Living in her old house, I'm terrified she'll try to hurt me and the baby again. You have to protect us. All right. Julian replied without a shred of hesitation. Whatever you want, whatever you need. Peyton leaned against the icy wall. The ancestral home she cherished most, every corner infused with her parents' memory, had been reduced to rubble just because of his words, whatever you want. And the man who lit that fire was the one who had sworn her name onto his ribs. Anger didn't surge up. It sank. It sank into her stomach, turning into a hard, cold stone. She turned and left without making a single sound. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Julian's name flashed on the screen. Peyton, his voice sounded distant. The medical facilities here aren't good enough. I've booked an afternoon flight back. You're coming with us. My house hasn't been cleaned up yet, she heard herself say. What's there to clean up in that pile of junk? He sounded annoyed. Peyton bit her lower lip, the taste of copper spread. Her home, her roots, had become junk in his mouth. I'll deal with it and head back myself. She paused. Mia's baby is the priority. You go first. Silence stretched on the other end. When he spoke again, his tone had softened. Peyton, he sounded relieved. I knew you were reasonable. You can stay for a few days if you want. Once I've settled Mia, I'll come pick you up. The call ended. The busy signal beeped. He didn't call again after he left. Peyton cleaned up the remains of her old house and returned alone to that frigid city. She dialed Julian's number. Her fingertips were ice cold. She wanted to confirm if he had received the court summons. The phone rang for a long time before connecting. Sorry, Peyton, there was background noise on his end. Mia isn't sleeping well at night. I've been neglecting you. You won't hold it against me, right? Before she could answer, he continued, good timing that you called. The company's anniversary gala is next week. I need you to accompany me. Peyton agreed. She needed an occasion to cut ties with him completely. The gala was brilliantly lit. Julian watched her approach in a black gown, a glimmer lighting up his eyes. Peyton, he said genuinely, you're still as beautiful as ever. Peyton didn't respond. The nail wounds on her arms still throbbed, but he couldn't see them. An aristocratic lady they knew walked up holding champagne. Mrs. Vance, we have a tea party next month. You absolutely must come. Peyton smiled faintly. No thanks, she said. By next month, I won't be Mrs. Vance anymore. The lady froze for a second, then covered her mouth to giggle. Oh my, you're still taking old Julian's little indiscretion to heart? Men are all the same. As long as it's not shoved in your face, just turn a blind eye. Peyton's fingertips trembled. So, everyone knew. She was the only one kept in the dark, looking like an absolute joke. I have zero tolerance for betrayal. She heard her own voice, remarkably calm. So, let someone else have the title of Mrs. Vance. A hand clamped aggressively onto her wrist. Julian had appeared behind her, his face ashen. Peyton, what nonsense are you spouting? He lowered his voice, dragging her into a corner. You are the only Mrs. Vance. He looked at her, his gaze so deep it threatened to suck her in. Wife, are you still mad about Mia? I was wrong. I couldn't control myself. But you can't leave me. You're the only one I love. Peyton cut him off. Whatever you do has nothing to do with me anymore. Next month. Mr. Vance. His assistant rushed over, whispering urgently into his ear. Miss Mia is here. Julian's expression froze. He let go of her wrist, his tone adopting a warning edge. Do not cause trouble for Mia at such an important event. He stared at her, enunciating every word. Do not embarrass me. With that, he turned and hurried away. Peyton watched his back as he rushed to another woman, feeling utterly exhausted. A bone-deep fatigue. Mia arrived. A tight-fitting gown clearly outlined her slightly bulging stomach. Whispers spread like a tidal wave. He spoils her so much, actually bringing her to this kind of event. The wife's belly hasn't shown any action. They can't just let the family line die out. Every single comment accurately pierced Peyton's ears. She felt stripped naked and thrown under a spotlight, nowhere to hide. Before, no matter the occasion, Julian was always glued to her side. Now, he stood next to Mia, leaning down to whisper in her ear. Their posture was intimate, completely disregarding everyone else. Peyton felt suffocated. She walked over to the champagne tower and took a glass. The freezing liquid slid down her throat, suppressing the surging nausea. She needed to find an excuse to leave. Peyton. Mia had somehow sidled up to her, her voice light, carrying a smile. If I were you, I'd never have shown my face tonight. Peyton hadn't even turned around. The person next to her suddenly pivoted, their elbow slamming into the champagne tower. Crash! The crystal tower collapsed spectacularly. Shattered glass and alcohol exploded everywhere. Amidst the screams, Mia fell into the broken glass, several bloody scratches appearing on her face. She clutched her stomach, looking up with a tear-streaked face. Peyton. Her voice trembled with absolute despair. I know I can't drink pregnant. Why did you force me? When I wouldn't drink, you pushed me. This is Julian's flesh and blood in my stomach. The crowd went dead silent for a second, then erupted in an uproar. Julian pushed through the crowd, his face thunderous. Soaking wet and seeing him, Mia cried until she nearly fainted. He took off his suit jacket, wrapped her in it, and gently brushed the wet hair stuck to her face. He kissed her cheek softly. Don't be afraid, his voice was as steady as a mountain. I'm here. Nobody can hurt you or the baby. Peyton watched the scene, her eyes burning dryly. He didn't care that she was being publicly framed. He didn't care about her dignity. He only cared about Mia and the baby in her stomach. I didn't push her. Peyton heard her own voice, cold and flat. Julian scooped Mia up, not even looking at her. Take my wife back to the old house, he instructed the assistant behind him, suppressing his rage. No one opens the door without my permission. The Vance family's old house had been empty for too long. The night wind whipped through the broken window frames, making a wailing sound. Because of days of torrential rain, the river behind the courtyard had swollen dangerously high. Murky water slammed against the dilapidated embankments. Peyton felt a growing unease. She called Julian's phone. When are you coming to the old house? His voice on the other end was chillingly unfamiliar. You reflect on what you did in there. I told you, don't mess with Mia at the gala, don't embarrass me. Did you want me to lose face in front of everyone? The lawful wife publicly beating the mistress? Peyton, when did you become so vicious? She gripped her phone, her knuckles turning white. I told you I didn't push her. Enough, he cut her off. I'll send them away when the child is born. You couldn't even wait that long? Forced her to drink and pushed her. He took a deep breath. You have deeply disappointed me. The busy tone beeped again. Outside the window, the sound of the river thrashing the banks grew louder, mixing with the muffled thunder of the approaching storm. Peyton slowly lowered her phone. The screen's glow illuminated her completely emotionless face. Chapter 4. When Peyton heard those words, the air around her suddenly thinned out. She couldn't breathe in. I didn't tell her to drink. Her voice was steady. And I didn't push her. Julian suddenly raised his volume. She threw herself into broken glass. Peyton, do you know how badly she wants this baby? He took a step forward. When you embarrassed me at the anniversary gala, did you forget all the prestige you enjoy as Mrs. Vance was given by me? Every word was like an ice pick, chiseling into her eardrums. So she was just an accessory. Whatever he gave, she should receive on her knees. The river outside was raging. Rain battered the glass aggressively. She lowered her head, her voice very soft. It really wasn't me. I can confront Mia face to face. But right now, tell someone to let me out. The rain is too heavy. The river is about to overflow. Julian sneered. That river hasn't flooded in 20 years. Come up with a better excuse next time. The line went dead. Boom. A muffled explosion echoed in the distance. It wasn't thunder. It was the roar of mud crashing through the courtyard wall. She scrambled to the second floor and called him back. Phone turned off. The entire old house was pitch black. The last sliver of light on her phone died. Only the sounds of wind, rain, and the sticky, squelching noise of mud devouring bricks and stone remained. The muddy torrent reached the second-floor floorboards. She bumped into a wardrobe and climbed on top of it. Her foot slipped, and her ribs slammed brutally into the corner of the cabinet. The pain blinded her. The moment she let go, the mud swallowed her over her head. The thick, earthy stench plugged her nose and mouth. Suddenly, she remembered the Maldives. In the shallows, he had gripped her waist tightly, his breath tickling behind her ear. You're not a strong swimmer. Stay away from the water from now on. Don't go in unless I'm there. Now, he had abandoned her here. The mud reached her collarbones. When she opened her eyes again, it was the stark white ceiling of a hospital. Julian sat by the bed, his eyes bloodshot. He threw his arms around her, his arms shaking. Peyton, I'm so sorry. I really didn't know it would flood. His voice was completely hoarse. Couldn't you have just called me and compromised first? Peyton remembered the cold, busy signal when he hung up on her. She turned her face away. He forced her face back toward him. "Wife, I didn't mean to put you in danger." His fingers were freezing. "The mud was 10 centimeters from your face. If I was a second later, you." He suddenly dropped to his knees. "Punish me however you want. Just don't ignore me." Peyton pulled the blanket up over her head. The door clicked. Mia's high-pitched voice drifted in. "Peyton, I'm here to apologize. It's my fault I went to the gala, making Julian punish you by sending you to the old house." She paused. "If anything happened to you, me and the baby, we wouldn't have the face to live anymore." Julian immediately chimed in. "What nonsense are you talking? It was an accident." He tried to pull down Peyton's blanket. "Mia came all the way to see you. Stop throwing a tantrum." That sentence acted like a sledgehammer, smashing the last remaining piece of anything left in her chest. She threw off the blanket, grabbed the water glass from the nightstand, and hurled it at them. "Get out." The glass grazed Mia's sleeve and shattered against the wall. Julian didn't yell at her. He just gently guided Mia out the door. When he returned, his voice was softer. "Peyton, this is all my fault. Don't take it out on Mia, she's pregnant. Rest well, and we'll have a baby in the future too." His phone rang. He put it on speaker. His mother's shrill voice pierced the room. "Get over here now. Mia is crying so hard it's affecting the baby." Julian turned to leave. "I'll go check and be right back." The door shut. Peyton's phone screen lit up. A document from her lawyer. Divorce decree. She stared at those 2 words and suddenly smiled. She remembered the day they got their marriage license. He clutched the 2 red booklets and refused to let go. "I have to hide these. That way you can never get a divorce, and you have to be my wife forever." She booked the earliest flight out. When Julian sprinted into the hospital room, his mother was rubbing Mia's back. "Stop crying. What if you hurt the baby?" Mia's eyes were swollen into mere slits. Seeing him, the tears poured anew. He walked over and held her, gently dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "Why are you acting like such a child?" Mia buried her face in his chest, sobbing so hard she shook. His mother glared at him, her voice low but heavy with finality. "Right now, the most important thing is the child in Mia's belly. Put Peyton on the back burner for now." Julian patted Mia's back, shooting a warning look at his mother. She ignored it, continuing, "What's so great about her? From a nobody family, and she's barren. Divorce her and marry Mia. My grandson has to be the legitimate heir." Mia tugged at his coat, her eyes welling with tears. "Julian, I know you're only good to me right now because of the baby. Don't take what your mom said seriously. I can wait. The baby and I will wait together." Julian suddenly felt incredibly irritable. "We had an agreement from the start. Once the child is born, I'm sending you both abroad." Mia looked up with her wet, doe-like eyes, but when a woman is pregnant with the child of the man she loves, she changes. "Right now, I just want you by our side, watching the child grow up." Julian said nothing. He inexplicably recalled their early marriage days, constantly pestering Peyton for a child. "Wife, let's have a soccer team. You be the coach, and I'll take them out to play." He shook his head. "I have Peyton. I'm not getting a divorce." Mia's tears cascaded down immediately. She looked at Julian's mother. "Auntie, I guess I don't have the blessing to call you Mom." Her voice trembled. "Your grandson is destined to be a bastard." His mother's face darkened. "Julian Vance, if it's a son, you must marry her." Julian stood up, panic gripping his chest. "Mom, stop trying to arrange things." Holding her stomach, Mia asked softly, "Have you really never felt anything for me? Never looked forward to this child?" He froze in place. His Adam's apple bobbed, but no sound came out. He had kept telling himself, "I love Peyton, absolutely no divorce." But that split-second hesitation was like a needle piercing through all his conviction. "I will not divorce her." He pulled open the door and fled. Chapter 5. Mrs. Vance turned and left, her heels clicking sharply and rapidly against the tile floor. Only Mia remained. She didn't move. She raised her hand, slowly wiping away the wet tracks on her face with the back of her hand. Once, twice, until her skin felt dry and taut. "Julian Vance, I have your child in my belly." Her voice was flat, like she was reciting an announcement. "What's so great about that barren hen, Peyton?" Julian turned his face toward the car window. The child was an accident. He just couldn't bring himself to reject a living life. The bit of attention he gave Mia was nothing more than transferred affection. He nodded to himself as if seeking confirmation. The heavy, stagnant mass in his chest seemed to loosen slightly. His phone rang. It was the hospital. The physical exam reports for him and Peyton were ready. He went to pick them up personally. The doctor handed over the file envelope. "Mr. Vance, your wife is perfectly healthy." Julian's shoulders relaxed. As long as she was fine. He paused. "You have no idea how badly she wants a baby." The doctor's finger moved to the other report. "But there's a problem with you." The doctor's voice was steady as he delivered the diagnosis: azoospermia. Julian snatched the report. Black and white ink. Official stamps. The words seared into his vision before he violently grabbed the doctor by the collar. "Is your machine broken?" His grip tightened, bunching the fabric into a knot. "Trying to scam me into treatments?" The flesh on the doctor's face squished into a grimace. "Mr. Vance, our equipment is state-of-the-art." "Bullshit." Julian shoved him away, pointing right at his nose, letting out a sharp laugh. "I have a kid. 5 months along. You can go get retested somewhere else." "Of course I'm getting retested." Julian crumpled the report and threw it in the trash. "When my son hits 1 month, the drinks are on me." He stormed out. The car doors slammed shut. The world went quiet. He gripped the steering wheel, his hands shaking so violently he had to squeeze it tight just to suppress it. If the report was true, then what was in Mia's stomach? He told his mother the news. The old woman, who never let a hair out of place, snapped her prayer beads. They scattered across the floor. "A mistake. How is that possible?" Her voice drifted. "Then where did Mia's baby come from?" Julian lowered his head. "I went to 2 other hospitals. Same results." When he looked up again, the last trace of warmth in his eyes had extinguished. "I need to find out whose bastard she's carrying. And who's backing her, daring to play games with me." Back in the hospital room, Mia huddled on the edge of the bed. Julian's gaze scraped over her skin like a shard of ice. She timidly reached for his sleeve. "Julian, I won't pressure you to marry me anymore. Having the baby and a small place in your heart is enough for me." Julian raised a hand, his fingertips tracing her cheek. "I have business for the company. Going out of town for a week." Mia immediately pressed her face into his palm, nuzzling it. "The baby and I will wait for you." The door clicked shut behind him. The fake warmth on Julian's face instantly peeled away. He dialed a number. "Watch her 24/7. Any movement, report to me immediately." Mia moved quickly. Hat, mask, slipping out the hospital's side entrance. The live feed went straight to Julian's phone. A secluded, run-down diner. The man sitting across from her, wearing a wrinkled suit, grabbed her wrist. $15,000. Where's the cash? Tyler, can you just stop gambling? Mia tried to yank her hand back, but failed. Julian won't marry me, so I can only siphon money slowly. I've given you everything. The man reached straight for the bracelet on her wrist. Useless. You got knocked up and still can't score a big payout. Not this one. It's a gift from him. I can't explain it if it goes missing. A slap cut her off. The man shoved the bracelet into his pocket, his expression suddenly turning sleazy. He leaned over and patted her stomach. Son, your mom's useless. Our ticket to the high life depends on you. Julian stared at the screen. The edge of his phone dug painfully into his palm. His knuckles slowly turned white. He took a screenshot and sent it to his subordinate. Look into this guy. Then he closed his eyes, pressing his thumb hard between his eyebrows. The rubbing slowed down. He thought of Peyton. Whenever he frowned, her fingertips would always land gently right there, smoothing out the lines bit by bit. For years, she had obsessively sought medical help, taken medicine, endured injections. It turned out the problem was him. He wanted to hear her voice. He unlocked his phone and found her name. His finger hovered over the dial button for a long time, but ultimately, he just let the screen go dark. He was afraid. afraid that the only thing on the other end would be a busy signal. Once he cleaned all of this up, he'd buy her favorite white lychees. By the latest season's bag, he was going to make proper amends. 3 days later, the dossier landed on his desk. Julian flipped through the pages. Tyler, Mia's high school classmate. They hooked up ages ago. While working a college job at a gala, Mia accidentally ran into a drunk Julian. She helped him to a VIP room, unbuttoned 2 buttons on her collar. Slipped within the report was a receipt. Hymen reconstruction surgery. The first time he cherished so much had a price tag. Julian violently grabbed the entire stack of papers, crumpled them, and hurled them at the wall. The paper ball bounced off with a dull thud. He kept his head down, his back pulled tight like a drawn bow. The voice grinding out from deep in his throat was hoarse and savage. Go. Drag those 2 dogs back to me. Chapter 6. Julian's last phrase, bring them back, was squeezed through his teeth. The voice on the other end simply replied, yes, sir. Mia's comb fell to the floor. The hospital room door was kicked open, and 2 men hoisted her up by the arms. The scratches her nails left on them didn't cause a single flinch on their faces. A foul-smelling rag clamped over her mouth. Her last conscious thought was the dull, heavy pain in her abdomen as she was dragged away. Tyler traded that bracelet for $500. Before the money could even warm his pocket, a hand grabbed him by the scruff of his neck, yanking him out of the smoky casino. The smell of urine filled the back of the van. A solid punch to the gut folded him in half like a shrimp, leaving him only able to whimper. The warehouse lights were blindingly white. Julian's suit jacket lay on the floor, his tie loose. His cigarette was half-burned, the smoke wrapping around the rigid line of his jaw. The medical reports and enlarged photos, the man and woman hugging outside a motel, were scattered across the concrete floor. When Mia was shoved in, the drugs had just worn off. She lunged for his legs. The tip of his shoe stopped her at the shoulder. The baby? Julian leaned forward, the cold light from the tablet reflecting on his face. The video started playing. If you don't give it to me, I'll tell Julian that the kid in your belly isn't his. The color drained from her face, second by second. Tyler was tossed beside her like a pile of mud. The sound of his head banging against the floor echoed in the space. Mr. Vance, the kid is mine. My seed. This bitch came up with the idea. Mia screamed, lunging to cover his mouth, but was shoved hard away. The receipt for the reconstruction surgery is still in my drawer. Tyler was covered in snot and tears. Didn't you tell me to find some old rich guy to con for surgery money? Shut up. The vein on Julian's temple throbbed. He crouched down, grabbing Mia's jaw with enough force to shatter bone. Your first time? Untouched. He let go, wiping his hand on his pants. Clean it up. He stood up, his voice devoid of any inflection. When the baby is born and the paternity is confirmed, let her figure out what to do with it. Mia's pupils contracted violently. Then she snapped her head up, her eyes bloodshot, her shriek slicing through the dead silence of the warehouse. Julian Vance. You found out you were infertile 5 years ago. You shoot blanks. This child couldn't possibly be yours anyway. She gasped for air, a twisted sense of gratification surfacing on her face. The dirty secrets of your company. I kept the evidence. If something happens to me, we all go down together. Julian slowly turned around. The harsh light made him look deathly pale, muscles twitching imperceptibly under his skin. He walked toward her, step by step. Say that? One more time. Mia shrank back, her voice shaking. I hid the evidence. He laughed. The sound echoed in the warehouse, freezing to the bone. Tape sealed her mouth, cutting off Tyler's whimpering as well. Julian didn't look back. He pried open her mouth to find out where the evidence was hidden. He paused. That guy, don't let him die too easily. The door slid open, letting in the night wind. His back was rigid. Her scream of "you shoot blanks" and the threat of the company's evidence were like 2 ice picks driven into his back. The baby was fake. He might actually be infertile. The concrete beneath his feet had, without him noticing, cracked open to reveal a bottomless abyss. Chapter 7. Mia's shrieks about him being barren and the threat regarding the company's evidence dropped like rocks into a deep pool. After the muffled splash, the ripples buzzed in Julian's ears, making his temples throb. The harsh lights of the warehouse beat down on him, his face ashen. He turned back to look at Mia, whose mouth was taped shut, only able to produce muffled groans through her nose. The last remaining shred of the Julian she knew was gone from his eyes. He walked back, crouched down, and ripped the tape off her mouth. The motion was sharp, tearing off a small patch of reddened skin. Mia flinched, not daring to scream again. "The evidence, where is it?" Julian's voice was very low, terrifyingly calm. "Spit it out clearly, and you suffer less. Tyler's life is in your hands too." He lifted his chin. One of his men dragged the limp Tyler closer, grinding the heel of his shoe into the man's fingers. His howls pierced the heavy air of the warehouse. "I'll talk," Mia choked out. "In my hometown, under my mom's bed, in an old tin cookie box, wrapped in wax paper. The flash drive and photocopies are all in there. I swear." Julian stared into her eyes. A few seconds later, he stood up and said quietly to his confidant, "Send someone reliable to get it. Verify it." He scanned the room. "Clean this place up." The man nodded and left. The warehouse was left with only suppressed breathing and Tyler's intermittent gasps. The sound of an engine. Screeching brakes outside. Chaotic footsteps and a woman's anxious voice approaching rapidly. "Julian? Are you in there? How is my grandson? Where's Mia?" It was Mrs. Vance. Julian's pupils contracted. The heavy iron door was pushed open from the outside. Supported by an old servant, Mrs. Vance barged in. The expensive cashmere coat was at odds with her disheveled hair. She first saw Mia tied up in the center of the room, her belly protruding. She had barely let out a breath of relief when her eyes fell on the bruised and battered Tyler, the documents and photos scattered on the floor, and the dark cloud on her son's face. What is going on here?" Mrs. Vance pushed the servant away and walked up to Mia. "Mia, who bullied you? Was it Peyton again?" Mia's tears streamed down, too terrified to make a sound, only whimpering softly. Mrs. Vance turned to glare at her son. "Julian, are you crazy? Why is Mia tied up? She's pregnant. Untie her right now." "Pregnant?" Julian's mouth twitched. He bent down, picked up a few photos from the floor, and handed them to his mother. "Mom, take a good look. This is the biological father of your precious grandson." Mrs. Vance took the photos. Her hands began to shake. She looked at the photos, then at Tyler, then back at Mia. Impossible. Her first time was clearly fake. Julian's voice was dry. "Reconstruction surgery. It was a setup." Mrs. Vance let out a shrill scream, swaying unsteadily. The old servant quickly caught her. She stared at Mia, the pity in her eyes tearing instantly into absolute disgust. "You bitch. You dared to scam the Vance family." She raised her hand to strike, but her vision went black. "Mom." Julian rushed forward to catch her. Mrs. Vance dug her nails into her son's arm, gasping for air. "Then what about that medical report? What she was screaming just now, about you being barren. Is it true? Julian, tell your mother, is it true?" Julian was silent. That silence was crueler than anything. Looking at her son's pale face and evasive eyes, Mrs. Vance understood everything. A rattling sound tore from her throat, her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed backward, stiff as a board. "Mom." Julian caught her. "Call an ambulance. Hurry." The warehouse descended into chaos. Sirens blared in the distance. Mrs. Vance was loaded onto a stretcher. Julian jumped into the ambulance, never sparing another glance at the man and woman. The old servant followed behind, wiping her tears. In the ambulance, Julian gripped his mother's icy hand. The phone in his pocket vibrated. It was the subordinate dispatched to retrieve the evidence. "Mr. Vance, we have the items. The flash drive and documents. The contents are problematic. Also, Mia's relatives in her hometown are asking questions. Seal it. Keep an eye on everyone." Julian rubbed his temples, his voice raspy. He looked at his unconscious mother. A departed Peyton. A crumbling business empire. the inescapable shadow of his infertility. 1,000 loose threads tying themselves into a dead knot. He stood in the center of the whirlpool, the ice beneath his feet cracking with fine, sprawling lines. Thousands of miles away, the flight landed in a southern coastal city. The humid, warm breeze drifted in. Peyton turned on her phone. The screen was instantly flooded with missed calls and unread messages. Attorney Davis, Ms. Shin, there's been a major development regarding Julian Vance's health and Mia's fraudulent extortion. Please call me back. Unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Vance. I am a reporter from XX Weekly. I'd like to verify with you. Old socialite friend, Peyton, did something huge happen to the Vances? The mistress's baby isn't his? Are you okay? The fragments of information sliced at her eyes. Julian's health, Mia's fraud, the baby isn't his. Peyton stood in the airport arrivals hall. The crowd bustled, speaking an unfamiliar dialect. Those words were like an icy tide, trying to drag her back into the mud pit she had just clawed her way out of. Her fingers tightened, her knuckles turning white. The truth had violently ripped open a corner. She didn't reply to anyone. Inhaling a deep breath of the salty air, she locked her screen and shoved the phone deep into her backpack. Then, she grabbed her suitcase, straightened her back, and merged into the forward-moving crowd. She knew she had to face it eventually. But not now. Not here. Outside the window, the southern night sky was dotted with stars. It felt like a completely different universe from the northern city currently enduring a storm. Chapter 8. The hotel faced the ocean. Pushing open the balcony doors, the humid, salty air carrying the residual heat of the sun swept in. The moonlight paved a path of crushed silver across the water, the distant port lights sparse. Quiet. Expansive. It felt like another world compared to the place she had just left. She stood under the hot shower for a long time. Her skin turned red, but closing her eyes, the images only grew sharper. Mia's triumphant face, Julian carrying her as he sprinted away, the suffocating feeling of mud filling her nose and mouth, the glaring words on her phone screen. She turned off the water and wrapped a towel tightly around herself. Dinner was exquisite, but she couldn't taste it. Swallowing mechanically, she walked out to the balcony. The sound of the waves was monotonous, persistent, like an interrogation. Was she free? It seemed so. But the sponge in her heart, soaked through with heavy water, dripped icy drops at the slightest touch. She couldn't sleep. The moment she closed her eyes, the dreams invaded. The flood at the old house, the murky mud, the agonizing pain of her ribs slamming into the cabinet, slipping, unable to breathe. Julian stood up high, holding Mia, looking down at her coldly. He even spoke into his phone, "Come up with a better excuse next time." Peyton shot up in bed. Cold sweat soaked her pajamas, her heart hammering painfully against her ribs. The room hummed with the low drone of the AC and the distant wail of the sea. She turned on the light, hugged her knees, and buried her face in them. Her body was shaking. Not from fear. It was anger, a delayed, freezing anger mixed with a thick, heavy sorrow. By dawn, there were dark circles under her eyes, but her gaze was sharper than the day before. She took out her phone, powered it on, ignored all unread notifications, and dialed Attorney Davis directly. He picked up immediately. "Ms. Shin, you finally turned your phone on." His voice carried a cautious sense of relief. "I'm fine." Peyton's voice was unnervingly calm. "Keep it brief. Regarding Julian and Mia, I only want facts that can be legally verified. Do you have them?" A pause on the other end. "The situation is complicated." Davis measured his words carefully. First, a medical diagnosis for Mr. Vance from 5 years ago indicates severe oligoasthenozoospermia. Natural conception is highly unlikely. The authenticity of this report is very high. Second, Mia is suspected of colluding with a man named Tyler to commit fraud and extortion regarding the fake pregnancy and the baby's paternity. The police are involved. Third, she claims to possess evidence of some improper business practices by Mr. Vance from years ago. Its authenticity is unverified. But this has little relevance to your finalized divorce agreement and asset division. We've already isolated your risks. However, to be safe, I recommend authorizing us to conduct a comprehensive asset preservation assessment. Peyton listened in silence. Every word was an ice pick chipping away at places already numb. 5 years. So he knew all along. Mission. I'm here. She took a deep breath, her voice steady. Email me the verified diagnosis report and the case summary. I want to see the black and white. Right away. Also, about the risk assessment and further legal action. Do it. She interrupted. Execute the strictest plan that guarantees my rights. Assess, preserve, sue if necessary. Cost is no object. She paused for half a second. Also, regarding the flood at the old house, the fact that Julian put me in a life-threatening situation, if there's any possibility for legal recourse, or if it can be used as supporting evidence, include it. Understood. She hung up and walked back to the balcony. The sun was blinding, seagulls swooped past. She returned to the room, opened her laptop, and logged into her email. The message was already there. She clicked the attachment. First document, scanned copy of the diagnosis report. Top-tier hospital. Date, a certain month 5 years ago. Patient name, Julian Vance. Diagnosis, severe oligoasthenozoospermia, natural conception highly unlikely. The black ink looked like a branding iron. Second document, case summary. Mia. Tyler. Fraud. Extortion. Proof of relationship, financial transactions, records of hymen reconstruction surgery. She sat motionless in front of the screen, staring for a long time. Then she began to laugh. First, her shoulders shook with low chuckles. Then the laughter grew louder, spinning out of control, tangling with sobs until she was howling with hysterical laughter. She doubled over, laughing as tears surged, running into her mouth, bitter and salty. 5 years. Over 1,800 days. How many tears had she shed? How many pills had she swallowed? How many pitying looks had she endured for a child that was never coming? For that accident, how much guilt had she carried, even silently accepting his abuse as some form of penance? Like a zealot, she worshipped a clay idol, offering her emotions, dignity, and health. And the result? The idol was made of mud. It shattered at a touch. Her faith was anchored to a despicable fraud who, fully aware of his own defects, dragged her into an even deeper defect to balance his ego. The laughter slowly died down. Only violent gasping and silent tears remained. It wasn't grief. It was the absurdity, the anger, the ultimate release of everything suppressed finding an exit. The sponge in her chest was squeezed tight by an invisible hand, squeezing out every drop of freezing, sour, furious liquid. After crying and laughing, Peyton dragged her palm across her face. She walked to the bathroom, cranked the cold water, and dunked her face straight into the freezing stream. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. When she lifted her head, the woman in the mirror had puffy eyelids and an unnatural red flush across her cheekbones from rubbing too hard. But her pupils were clear, like glass tempered by ice water, reflecting the cold gleam of the overhead light. She walked back to the screen. The cursor blinked in the reply box. Her fingers fell onto the keyboard, the clicks distinct in the silent room. I've reviewed the documents. Proceed with all legal protocols as discussed. I want a clean, absolute break, no matter the cost. Click. Send. The screen went dark, reflecting her blurred silhouette. She didn't move until the last sliver of light faded. She stood up and went to the balcony. The sea breeze was the same temperature. The sun hit at the same angle. But she knew something had completely burned out inside her. Not even the residual heat was left. At the same time, something else was cooling, hardening, taking shape. No longer needing to rely on anyone, no longer needing explanations. She was Peyton, the Peyton who now knew all the answers. Moving forward, every move on the board would be hers to make. Chapter 9. The coastal sun scorched the skin. The air tasted of salt. Peyton walked barefoot along the beach, the sand shifting from warm to cool beneath her feet. She walked for a long time, until the burned-out emotions inside her resembled the beach at low tide, revealing a hard, smooth surface beneath. Returning to her room, she rinsed the sand off her feet and changed into a cotton dress. Then she picked up her phone. In her contacts, the name Julian Vance sat quietly, like a specimen that had died long ago but hadn't been thrown out. It was time for the funeral. The phone rang several times before it connected. The background was noisy, the rhythmic beeping of hospital monitors cutting through. He was at the hospital. Peyton. His voice was hoarse, laced with a cautious, frantic joy, as if she was just throwing a tantrum. "Is that you? You finally called me." Peyton remained silent. That silence made his breathing turn hurried. "Peyton, where are you?" He stammered, clinging to her silence like a piece of driftwood. "I know I was wrong. I was conned by Mia. And my medical condition. Julian." She spoke, her voice as steady as reading a report. "I know everything." The line instantly went dead silent. Even the background noise faded. What do you know?" "I know about the diagnosis from 5 years ago. I know about Mia and Tyler. I know that your supposed taking responsibility was nothing but self-aggrandizing delusion built on layers of lies." Her pace was even, every word a blade. "And the river behind the old house that hadn't flooded in 20 years. You thought I was making up excuses. It wasn't like that. Listen to me." His voice spiked, panic leaking through. "I was just afraid you were under too much pressure. That venomous snake Mia. She ruined me too. My mom collapsed the company. Your pressure." She repeated softly, even letting out a low chuckle. "Do you remember how many pills I choked down over the last 5 years? How many tests I endured? How many times I was told to just relax? Because I couldn't get pregnant. Do you remember how your mother and everyone else looked at me? Do you remember how I survived you keeping Mia, bringing her home, letting her parade around with another man's baby? Do you?" Her tone never wavered, but every word bled. He choked. "I don't need explanations." Peyton continued, "I didn't call to hear your confession or settle scores. The ledger is too messy to clear now." "Then why?" A pathetic sliver of hope rose in his voice. "Peyton, are you willing to give us another?" He grew desperate, bordering on tears. "I swear. I'll clean up all this garbage. We can start over. We'll do IVF, we can adopt, whatever you want. I can't live without you." Peyton felt a buzzing in her ear, like an annoying fly. "Julian," she cut him off, her voice betraying absolute exhaustion and finality. "We are divorced. Legally, we have no ties. I'm calling to officially notify you. Everything about you, your medical issues, your lies, your mistress, your messes, has absolutely nothing to do with me anymore." She paused. "Do you understand?" "No, I don't accept this." The extinguished hope triggered an explosion of panic and rage. "Peyton, how can you be so heartless? Yes, I hid things from you. But wasn't I good to you all these years? Where would you be without me? Living in a mansion, wearing designer clothes, being called Mrs. Vance. You think you can just cut me out? Don't even dream about it." The mask of deep devotion was torn away, revealing the underlying reality of control and disdain. Listening to it, Peyton actually felt liberated, just as she suspected. Save the title of Mrs. Vance for someone who needs it. Her voice was colder than the Mariana Trench. "As for the life I have today, you know perfectly well how much of it was given by you, how much of it I earned, and how much I paid for with 5 years of my physical and mental health. We are even. This is a notification, not a negotiation." She hung up. The motion was crisp, without a sliver of hesitation. She muted the phone and tossed it onto the sofa. She walked out to the balcony, looking at the ocean. The wind blew past, scattering the last remnants of foul air. Almost at the exact moment she hung up, Julian's phone vibrated again. It wasn't her. It was his confidant, his tone frantic. "Mr. Vance, it's bad. The media caught wind of Mia's case and your medical records. The tax bureau and economic investigators just arrived at the office. They asked for you and the CFO by name. Also, Mission's lawyers just sent a formal letter demanding confirmation of the asset handover and reserving the right to press charges regarding the incident at the old house. Bad news hailed down like chunks of ice. Julian stood in the hospital corridor. The smell of disinfectant burned his nose. He stared at the call-ended notification on his screen. The declaration of having nothing to do with him rang in his ears alongside his subordinate's report. His vision went dark. His blood ran cold. Peyton didn't want him anymore. His mother was critically ill. The company was in jeopardy. His reputation was ruined. He might, in reality, have absolutely nothing left. Leaning against the cold wall, he slowly slid to the floor. He buried his hands in his hair. A repressed, animalistic whimper ripped from his throat. Regret? Perhaps. But it was mostly despair, the terrifying realization of his absolute inability to salvage the destruction he had wrought with his own two hands. Peyton, standing by the sea, had no idea about the world collapsing on the other end of the line. But she knew that once some words are spoken, they cannot be taken back. Once a bond is severed, there is no reason to reattach it. She turned back into the room and began packing her suitcase. This city was beautiful, but it was time for the next stop on her journey. Where she was going, she hadn't decided yet. But on the road ahead, the name Julian Vance would never again cause her to pause or look back. Chapter 10. The waiting room chairs were freezing. The rhythmic beeping of the monitors and the vibration of his phone worked in tandem to drag him out from the cold floor. He wiped a hand down his face, swallowing the lump in his throat along with Peyton's final words. The collapse happened swiftly. Details from the medical report and the summary of Mia's case seemed to sprout legs. Mainstream media was still holding off, but inside private VIP club rooms, competitors' boardrooms, and encrypted chat groups within the Vance Corporation, screenshots and whispers were spreading like wildfire. The label of a devoted, wealthy romantic was ripped away, replaced by far uglier words. Impotent. Played for a fool by an escort. The routine questioning from the economic investigators grew longer each time. The borderline illegal operations from his early days were dredged up one by one and exposed under bright lights. Even without ironclad proof, it was enough for the banks to tighten their credit lines and for partners to reconsider their deals. The stock price entered a steady, agonizing plunge. His mother's eyes completely changed after her third resuscitation. She didn't scold him, she just wearily raised a hand toward the old servant. The structure of the family trust fund quietly began to shift. When a wall falls, everyone rushes to push. Julian burned through cash and called in every favor, trying to plug the leaks. But some things, once spilled, can never be gathered back. Like reputation. Like trust. He ran himself ragged between the hospital, the law firm, and the boardroom. His eye sockets were deeply sunken. His suits hung off his frame. One late night, his car automatically drove back to the villa. The key still turned the lock. Inside, it was pitch black and dead silent. The smell of dust hung in the air. Every single trace of her was gone. Not even the remnants of the clothes and jewelry he bought, which she had angrily thrown away, were left behind. He didn't turn on the lights. Guided by the faint city glow outside, he walked into the living room. There was no indentation on the sofa where she used to curl up, no sweet scent of the fruit tea she brewed. Only the cold. He curled himself into that corner. The chill of the leather seeped through his shirt, inch by inch. In the dark, images forced their way up. Not the good ones. The way the light in her eyes died every time he pushed a credit card toward her. The sound of her desperate breathing over the phone during the flood at the old house, and the crisp finality of his finger hitting the end call button. Heh! A short breath escaped his throat. Retribution, he supposed. He thought the things he held in his hands, wealth, status, a respectable marriage, a future heir, were solid. It turned out they were just sand. Squeezed too tight, it all slipped away. Tears fell, surprisingly cold. Not for her. That pain was too massive, he didn't dare touch it yet. It was for the bone-deep, all-encompassing defeat of this very moment. Power and wealth were crumbling. Family ties were severed. And love, he felt like he had never truly understood what it was. The villa was filled only with his heavy breathing. Soon, even that was swallowed by the silence. On the other side of the world, at an open-air cafe in a small European town, Peyton sat under a parasol, a latte, and an open travel guidebook on the table before her. The sun was making her delightfully lazy. Her phone buzzed. An email from Attorney Davis. All asset handovers are complete. Legal ties have been cleanly severed. The firewall is in place. Relevant evidence archived. Mission: from a legal standpoint, you are completely finished with Julian Vance and his affairs. Finished. She took a light breath and slowly let it out. She closed the email, opting not to reply. There was no need. She took a sip of her coffee, her eyes landing on the description of an art museum in the guidebook. In the past, her world was the gilded cage of Mrs. Vance. Now, she held the map in her own hands. The phone buzzed again. A new text message from a local artist she had met in a language learning community. My studio has an open house this weekend. A few friends are showing their work. Might be something you'd enjoy. Smiley face. She looked at the simple smiley face, and the corners of her lips curved up. Her fingers tapped out a quick reply. Sounds wonderful. Looking forward to it. Send me the time and address. Send. She looked up. The spires of a distant church pierced the brilliant blue sky. What would the future look like? She didn't know. Maybe she'd stay here. Maybe she'd keep moving. Maybe she'd study something. Maybe she'd just observe. But every single step would be her own choice. The ocean breeze, the sunshine, the kind invitations of strangers, the peace slowly awakening inside her. These tangible, real fragments were slowly paving over the old scars. The man named Julian Vance and everything he brought with him were like stains on the beach after the tide went out, washed completely away by fresh waves. She didn't hate him anymore. She just let it go. And then, she turned and walked into her own sunlight. The cafe's jazz music hummed softly in the background. She closed her guidebook, finished the last sip of her coffee, stood up and merged into the leisurely flow of the street. Her back was straight, her steps light. She disappeared around the corner, dissolving into the aroma of coffee hanging in the air.